You can't tell the backside of one horse from another unless you're an absolute expert. So, no, seriously.
Oh, dear.
Very, very early morning sports radio for postmen, trolley dollies,
Out of a dirt chip, Prestwick.
and anyone who had to do a dawn runner after a very ill-advised one-night stand.
Go, go, go.
Over my dead body.
The two mics on Talk Sport.
Look at the light! It happens in Scotland as well.
Well, I don't think so.
Well, in that case, the Scottish are backwards.
Well, I'll
and
find
I
out.
don't mean you're... sorry, I'm not insulting the Scottish nation. I'm not saying you're backwards. I'm saying is...
You just said Scotland is backwards.
No, I
Yes,
didn't
you
mean...
did.
I withdraw that absolutely.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics, and I'm delighted to say that fresh, or perhaps not so fresh, from the secret mission, Mr. Parry is here once again. It's time to say very good morning. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
Very good morning,
I've never
Mike.
seen you so exhausted.
No, the secret mission's wearing me down. But
I'm not surprised.
It's a national duty that I have to undertake. I mean, I can't say anything about it. You know that
I realise that.
You know that I have contacts in naval intelligence.
I
and all
realise
this
that,
kind
the
of stuff,
Commodore,
so
yes.
I can be at the core of British life. And what I'm doing at the moment now is helping the national cause in a very specific area. But I can't talk about it because I'm sworn to secret. If I told you anything about it, you'd be arrested.
I would be, yeah, and I wouldn't want to have to be arrested again. Now, I would say that also the army of Two Mics fans, I'm sure, would help me pass on their congratulations to you for being such a stalwart in this arena.
Thank you.
So well done.
Yes, thank you.
So we'll start off on a happy note, shall we?
Start off on a happy note.
Because I noticed that yesterday you were starting to get a bit grouchy with me, which was very good, actually, because you've been far too nice to me lately.
Yeah, sure, I think you're right.
A lot of people are very disappointed in that.
I'm going to be nice to Brendan Rodgers tonight.
Yeah?
He was prude.
Very prude.
He's very prude.
How do you
to be
say
honest,
that they should be given credit, though, for coming bottom of the table and only getting 2 points out of a possible 15?
Yeah, I know, but actually, you know, when you're playing Barcelona, which are one of the greatest club sides of all time...
And Manchester City.
But I mean, Barcelona tonight, obviously, then, you know... it's a big night, isn't it, when Barcelona comes to town, all that kind of stuff.
Well, you know they have that great political kind of affiliation as well between the Basques and the Republican wing of the Celtic support.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so that was all good, and
I tell you what, a great goal by Lionel Messi. The first one.
Yes, it was, yeah.
Because even Roy Keane, as I was watching his analysis after the game, said actually Celtic have been lined up perfectly here.
Yeah.
There were 9 Celtic players basically in the penalty area. And somehow
he got round them all.
Well, he didn't get round them all. He just made his run. He timed his run perfectly.
Exactly.
Right. So that Neymar could lob the ball into him, and he's hit it first time.
Yes. Well, that's how he got round them all, by perfectly timing his run.
He just perfectly timed his run, and the lob came over just cut out all the players. It was quite magnificent. And I mean, I've seen Barcelona and Celtic play at Parkhead, and it is a great night. You have to say.
Yes. No, I agree. And Arsenal underwhelming again, but they got through as they always do.
Well, yeah, they did. But you see, you said last night it was a dead rubber, and I disputed it.
Yes.
And you still argue with me about it when the show ended. But in fact, it was clearly not a dead rubber because now they're going to go through second instead of first.
Yeah, okay, I'll accept it to that point of view. But I mean, the table's exactly the same now as it was last night. So, you know, to that extent, I think
that's
it's a
true.
dead rubber.
And also, what's interesting this year as well is that Bayern Munich and Real Madrid, it looks like, are going to be in second place as well.
Yeah.
So, in fact, you could argue that Arsenal will avoid both of them by having come second.
That's right. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Now, listen, while I've been involved in the secret mission, something's been going on in politics, and, you know, I get very bored by politics these days, but was there a budget or something?
Well, there was an autumn statement. The most important thing from which seems to have been that there will no longer ever be another autumn statement.
Yeah.
And what they're now going to do is move the budget from the spring to the autumn.
To the autumn, yeah.
But apart from that, I mean, the only thing that's of interest to you is that they're going to do away with these ridiculous fees that used to be being charged by letting agents. I don't know whether you're somebody that has to be has to deal with letting agents in your property portfolio.
Do you know what really is the scandal? Is that property I own, I rent out because that's the idea of the investment.
Well, that's the idea of the buy-to-let scene, isn't it?
Of course it is, but most property in the buy-to-let scene is freehold property because you're buying flats. And if you're buying a flat, you're buying a space in the air. You're not buying the ground on which it's built. That's the freehold.
Is that what the difference is between leasehold and freehold?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, freehold means you own the ground on which the property's built, and leasehold means that you're renting the space in which the flat exists.
Are there not some properties in parts of London where you buy a house but it's only leasehold?
Yes, there can be.
And the lease is like 99 years or something like that.
Oh, it can be much longer. It can be 999.
Right.
It can be 1,000 years.
But is that because, say, the Duke of Westminster owns the land?
Yeah, it can be.
Some kind of feudal nonsense.
Well, let me tell you, for instance, in Eaton Square, which is probably, was the best address in Britain.
Yeah.
I suppose Kensington Palace Road is...
Well, no, I think Eaton Square's probably
Eaton Square's pretty good.
It's where Margaret Thatcher used to live.
I don't think there's a freehold property in Eaton Square because it's owned by the Duke of Westminster, most of it, and therefore you can only get a lease for a number of years. But that number of years can be 999.
Yeah.
But sometimes...
But if you're unlucky, you could be getting it with only about 90 years to go or 80 years to go.
Well, it's your choice. It's your choice to buy it, and that then reflects the value of the property. For instance, I'm well aware of people who come from overseas. They want to stay here for 10 years, but they want the prestige of living in Eaton Square. They will pay millions for an apartment in Eaton Square, which has a 16-year lease.
Really?
Literally 16 years.
But then when it's only got a 6-year lease, when they move out, presumably it's not worth as much money, is it?
No, of course it's not worth as much money. And what's more, the person who buying it on 6 years, he wants to stay for 20, then has to renegotiate a long-term lease, which would cost as much as the property.
Over and above the property.
Oh, as much as the property.
That's ridiculous.
Well, the whole thing can be. But anyway, on this letting fee thing, right? Yeah. So the properties I own, most of the properties I own are freehold.
How many are there?
Oh, it doesn't matter how much they are. But I have bought some of the freeholds, actually, in association with the people in the block. You can get a share of the freehold.
Okay.
And in fact, in some blocks, I actually own the freeholds to all the property.
Right, to the whole block?
Yes, and if somebody wants to sell their property, they've got to come to me, and I put a premium on the
poor
sale.
Sods.
Presumably
you ratchet up that fee.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. But anyway, the point is...
Shocking.
What is shocking is that... you're renting out to, a tenant, and then 12 months later, that agreement is renewed. But the freeholders will then say you're subletting the property.
Yeah.
And I said, well, that's what buy-to-let is. It always has been. Yes, but on that basis, you've got to pay us a £175 fee for us to allow you to sublet it.
Right.
Because we have a subletting clause.
But I mean, from the point of view of renters, for example, which is what most people are, I presume, listening to this, they're not all property magnates, right?
Yes.
So whenever they go and rent a new flat, they are subject to this ridiculous fee.
Yes,
which the letting agent charges them. Then the letting agent will also charge the landlord a fee.
Yes.
But of course, what now they're saying is that this fee will now just be added on to the price of the rent.
Yeah.
So it might not be a great idea.
Well,
that the government have come up with. It might be that now people's rents are going to go up even more.
At the end of the day, the person living in the property pays all the taxes because that's what the owner of the property makes sure happens. So, for instance, when that idiot George Osborne decides we'll pay £7,500 in stamp duty in future, that used to be £100, by the way. That used to be £100 straight stamp duty just to sign the deal to buy property, no matter what it was.
Yeah.
And now it's £7,500. Some properties, it's over £100,000. Yeah. It's ludicrous. You want to buy a property down in Poole Harbour, on Sandbanks. Yeah. It could be well over £100,000. It's absolute racket.
Well, it's all relative. That's they do that because if you can afford to buy a house worth $2 million, you add another 100,000 on, it's not going to be a big problem.
Yeah, but that's the politics of envy and malice.
No, it's not. It's the politics of fairness.
I object to that.
And it's the politics of fairness.
No, it's not. It's the politics of envy and malice. Envy and malice. What they say is that guy's got loads of money, so we'll have a bit more of his.
No,
envy and malice.
What I'm saying to you is that if you have a property which is worth £2 million and you sell that property or you want to buy that property, then the tax on that property should be higher than a flat rate, which would be the same as if you were buying a place for £50,000.
I don't believe in that. I think I'm getting ripped off just because I've made a success of my investment portfolio.
All I'm saying to you is you better be very careful. You better watch these letting agents and how they're going to then try and pass, because they're going to try and pass the cost on to you in some other way. Yeah. So you might have to be on your mettle.
You'll love this, by the way, talking about meritocracy and society and I'm
a great believer in meritocracy
and the poor. What about this one here? In a Tesco store in Edinburgh, one of your favourite towns.
Yes.
Tesco store in the upmarket area of Bruntsfield in Edinburgh.
Bruntsfield, yeah.
Right, you know where that is?
I do.
It sits between top-rated state school, Boroughmuir High.
It's not a long way from where J.K. Rowling lives, actually.
Yes, exactly, yes. Boroughmuir High and George Watson's College, which charges up to £11,577 a year.
Would that be Scottish pounds?
Scottish pounds.
Aye.
Now then, when the children from Boroughmuir High go to the local Tesco store... They are told to wait in a line and only go in 3 at a time.
3 at a time, yeah. Well, some shops only let them in 1 at a time.
Well, I know, but this is because... they have
a lot of stealing.
Well, they do what you used to do when you were a child and shoplifting in shops,
Well, every kid does it.
No, I didn't do it. I didn't do it.
You reserved your criminal activities for much older.
I never had any criminal activities.
Red diesel smuggling.
Anyway,
knock off Corona.
But you'll get this. The children from Burramerhay are told to wait in a queue and go on 3 at a time.
Aye.
Whereas the children from £11,577 a year George Watson's College are deemed to be more honest, and they're allowed to walk into the store at will.
See, that's not good. That's a recipe for trouble, that, isn't it?
Why is that a recipe for trouble?
Well, because they've already
I think that's a good reflection on society. Well,
let me point out to you that there are just as many crooks that come out of private school as come out of any other school.
Oh, most crooks come out of private schools, to be honest, because they think they're clever and they can balk the system.
Exactly.
And that's why they get locked up a lot.
Sounds to me like that's another thing that Tesco's have got wrong, to be honest.
I think it's good that we should have some class division here, especially in Scotland.
And also, probably most of the students in the private school are English anyway.
Yeah, maybe.
Most of them in Edinburgh are.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. We're going to be talking to Mr. Mark Donaldson. In fact, you can ask him about Bruntsfield because he's an Edinburgh. He's an Edinburgh native himself, but he'll be preparing to celebrate Thanksgiving, of course, which it is in the United States of America.
That's right.
In a few hours' time, the biggest holiday they have.
Yeah.
We'll also be talking about the man who knows something about that new supersonic plane that they're going to put up in the air, which is going to be the successor to Concorde.
And the fact that in the future, the hope is, from the man who runs Ryanair, what's his name, Michael
O'Leary.
Michael O'Leary, that's right, that you'd have to pay to get on a Ryanair plane.
Yeah, we shall see. We shall see. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Porkyvision, of course, later as well. Best TV review this side of, as we say, Ludogorets. That's a Champions League reference, of course.
Yeah.
That's who PSG have got to play next, which would tend to suggest that they're probably going to finish top of their group. Now, how about this from Alex? He seems to have upset this guy. Mike, ridiculous fee. You don't understand the business model. Don't comment on something you know nothing about. Letting agents.
Oh, he's a letting agent.
I presume he is a letting agent.
Yeah. Some of you letting agents are scumbags, Alex. I'm not suggesting you are. You might be a non-scumbag, but some of them are.
Certainly, that's what that was something I saw being said by some what you would call reputable letting agents. Who said that the reason that this has happened is because an awful lot of letting agents have been very, very greedy,
absolutely,
and have started, charging both ends of the deal,
absolutely,
which you can't do, can you?
No, of course you can't. By the way, we talked Scotland, so we can talk a bit more Scotland just for a minute. Did you know that since the NSP? Massively, the Scottish National...
The SNP.
SNP, yeah. Since they massively expanded their numbers in the House of Commons...
Yes, the 56.
Yeah, do you know what one of the spin-off effects is?
What is it?
Iron Brew has had to open a new department down in London to supply the House of Commons. Iron Brew sales in Parliament soared since the SNP's sweeping gains.
I saw this story on a line the other day, and I actually tweeted it out saying possibly the most ridiculous story of all time.
Exactly.
Who cares?
Sales of the fizzy drink increased by 60% in the year after the Scottish Nationals gained 56 seats. Bars, cafes and vending machines across Parliament sold 8,708 cans or bottles into financial year, which was up from 5,400 the year before. Well, one thing it does prove is everybody says that, Iron Brew, it's the Scottish hangover remedy and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Well, I mean, that does actually prove that it is Scotland's national drink, doesn't it?
Well, it's certainly very popular in Scotland.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
More so than anywhere else.
Yeah, if the House of Commons is suddenly infiltrated by, or occupied, I should say, by a great number more Scottish MPs, and the sales of Iron Brew go up, then the two have to be connected.
Well, I don't
unless
think there's any
English
doubt about
MPs have just suddenly decided, a glass of Iron Brew, it'll do. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, it may well be the case, but why is it a story? This is not a story to me.
No, it is, because it proves, that this idea that Iron Brew, the national drink of Scotland, is not a fallacy. It's actually reality. And I think that's the first time you've been able to say that.
Well, I think anyone who lives in Scotland, who has spent any time in Scotland, would already know that.
I know, but the English didn't realise that.
Yeah, they did. I mean, Iron Brew's been on sale down here for years and years and years, right? It's not exactly... Yeah. It's not as if there's no Scottish people living in England.
Yeah. And by the way, AG Bar... You know who they are?
Yeah, they're the people that make it.
That's right, the people who make it. Are cutting the amount of sugar used in it to to prepare themselves for the new sugar levy. I didn't realise there was a sugar levy due to come into effect in 2018.
Yeah, that's
a
right.
load of rubbish.
Don't you remember the sugar tax that they said they spent loads and loads of time debating it in Parliament and then said, we're definitely going to bring it in about 3 years.
Yes, that's right, yeah.
Have you ever had Iron Brew, by the way?
Yes, I like Iron Brew.
Yeah.
In fact, I think I told you, didn't I? My one of our mates in Fleet Street, Colin Bell, managed to drink himself to death with Iron Brew.
I didn't think it was Iron Brew.
Well, it wasn't Iron Brew. This is the point. What he used to do is he used to come. It was a very sad story. He became an alcoholic, and he couldn't control his alcoholic inputs, you know, and so there is an element of sympathy.
Not surprised if he's hanging around with you.
Well, no, he wasn't hanging around with me. I had to sack him because he used to get so drunk that he couldn't do his job. So, and I did that as an act of kindness.
I'm sure
I said,
While
life's out of control.
Bottom.
Life's out of control, man. And you're no good to me anymore because you never go on jobs. You just head straight to the pub, and it's deceitful. And once you start doing that, you've got to get yourself sorted.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, thanks. That's great. So he went off and set up a travel business because in those days there were so many freebies going around on holiday. You could actually... a lot of people did this, including Rosie Boycott, right? If you're out of work in Fleet Street, you set yourself up as a travel courier and you just ring up all the travel companies and say, look, next time you've got a group of journalists going to A, B, C or D, can I go as their... Oh, yeah, fine. So he was good at skiing.
What, go as their sort of chaperone?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, you lead the mission, you know what I mean? Yeah. So he was very good at skiing because he came from Scotland and he used to go to that place.
Aviemore.
Aviemore, that's right, it's a place, yeah.
Well, you say that as though everybody from Scotland's a good skier.
Well, you know, they've got more chance of seeing snow than we have, obviously, down here in the
south. Do you hear about
east
the Musselburgh racecourses have abandoned their race tomorrow, later on today, because the ground is too cold.
Too cold,
frozen.
Yeah, I like that. You see, I might go up there and see how cold it is and have a...
Well, it's obviously below freezing.
Have an input of coldness. But anyway, so old Cole, he says, I've got a great business going now, you know. He says, skiing holidays abroad, you know. I lead these people, he says, and plenty of young lassies are he's included, you know. It's a really great job. So that lasted as long as 2 successive trips. When at Gatwick Airport, he got so bladderated in the hospitality bar on the way out, he missed the flight.
He missed the flight.
Missed the flight completely.
There's a lot of that about.
Yeah.
There was a time when I lived in New York, there was a thing that you could do where you could be a courier just to go transatlantic.
Oh, that's right, yeah.
And you could
just
take a package,
parcels, yeah.
which sometimes was some film from a picture agency or
that's right.
something important that you could literally carry on the plane and deliver to somebody at the other side.
That's right.
And you could go on Concorde for something like sort of 150 quid or something.
I know, but it's not much call for that now in the modern electronic age. Anyway, getting back to poor old Cole.
Yeah.
When he completely lost the plot, he used to walk around with this Iron Brew bottle where the label was almost completely rubbed off. He had it for so long, and the bottle was scratched
because it was full of something else.
Full of whiskey.
Yeah.
He drank whiskey, and actually, our old mate Terry Manners, who would become the editor of the Scottish Daily Express, took pity on him because he was an old colleague from London, you know. And said, look, come and do a few sort of subbing shifts for me. And he came in, and every 10 minutes, Cole disappeared with his little black plastic briefcase. And
full of whiskey.
Well, it was full of it had the Iron Brew bottle in it, full of whiskey. And he'd literally go off to the men's bathroom, tell people that he had sort of a colic complaint, which I thought was a horse thing, but apparently he had it.
Colic?
Yeah, colic,
What do you mean a horse thing?
Well, horses get colic, don't they?
Well, babies get colic as well.
I didn't realise that. I thought it was just horses.
No.
Horses die of colic, don't they?
Well, I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm
they
not
do.
A horse expert.
Yeah, they do. Yeah.
I'm a baby expert, though.
Oh, yeah, I suppose you are, yeah.
Babies that get colic are very, very, very wearing on the parents. I had friends of mine whose baby had colic, and basically they can't sleep.
Bad
they
news.
cry all the time.
Bad news.
It's terrible.
Terrible. So anyway, and every 10 minutes he was off to the loo and he came back and he got more and more successively, weird and strange throughout the afternoon and then couldn't remember which newspaper office he was in. But anyway, very, very sadly, I got a letter from his brother a few months later, and he'd sadly passed away.
Expired.
Yeah.
Now, how about this from Foxy Loxy? Easy way to spot a scumbag agent. Foxton's share price dropped 16% today.
Did it?
On the news that the letting agent's fee was going to be abandoned.
Oh, is that right?
Foxton's, yeah.
Oh, I see. So
not suggesting that they were the only ones doing it.
No, they're not.
Certainly, according to what I've seen, they can add the tenant fee can add 340 quid on the average cost of letting a home.
Letting a home, yes. I
and they charge both ends against the middle, as it were. So they charge the landlords and they charge the tenants.
That's quite interesting, that, because Foxtons, I know, have spread out into the home counties because property in central London now is both saturated and very, very expensive. Foxtons have been going to probably hotspots around like Surrey and Buckinghamshire.
Opening up shops.
Yeah, opening up shops, in places like, the towns that were previously not that fashionable, like sort of Sutton and Epsom, certainly down my way, and... where else? Sort of Carshalton, places like that, and round in Essex and round in Berkshire and all that kind of stuff.
Right.
So that is very interesting indeed.
Now, Alex, who was having a go at you earlier, he says he's a letting agent, is willing to come on and talk about it if you wish. So you can.
No, it's too boring, Alex. I'm very sorry, but I know all about letting agents. Believe me. And I prefer to own property and feel wealthy.
Very nice for you.
Feel wealthy about it rather than having to go around screwing money out of people for letting agents' fees.
Now,
but I appreciate your input to the show. Thank
somebody
you.
Calling himself Shawlands Academical says it's currently -4 in Glasgow at the moment.
In Glasgow, I belong to Glasgow.
So you better get your long johns on for our trip up there on December the 17th.
I better had you're absolutely
now,
right.
How about this one from Lady Eilina?
Yes.
Hi, Mr. Parry. Guess who I saw today? Andy Townsend. We were both buying cards in Clinton's in Solihull.
Oh, really?
What a surprise. What a surprise.
Yeah, that's right. Well, buying cards, eh?
I wonder if he's buying you a card.
I wonder if he's buying me a card.
Do you send him a card?
Yes, I do. Every year, yes, I do.
You don't send me a card every year.
Well, I see you every day, so there's not much
but you
need,
don't
really.
send me a card. You've never sent me a card.
What do you want a card for?
Well, if you send one to Andy Townsend, who you used to work with, why don't you send one to me, who you do work with?
Well, because I do work with you, so I see you on a daily basis.
Well, you can deliver one to me then, by hand.
Yeah, maybe. I might do that this year. Now, listen, what were you getting upset about people complaining about tapping on tins of beans for?
Tapping on tins of beans? Well, because it's, again, we're in this ridiculous world, right?
Yes.
I presume you've seen this Heinz Beans advert.
Yes, I have,
where people are tapping and drumming on cans of beans, right?
Yeah, it's a bit
it's slightly irritating, right?
Yeah, it's a bit hackneyed. People tapping on tins and the first product to do that were those Quavers. No, what's the very nice soft crisp in the long tubes. You know what I mean?
I know the ones you mean.
Yeah. But anyway, they've got a plastic top. Okay?
Pringles.
Thank you. They
sell them on Ryanair, funnily enough.
That's right, they do. It's a carton container with a plastic top, and somebody advertising agency years ago started a drumming thing like that.
I didn't know that.
Anyway,
I was told once that if you're in the early days of broadband Wi-Fi. You could actually turn a Pringles tin into a way of hijacking somebody's Wi-Fi from outside their house.
Oh, that's good.
And you can sit in your car using it.
Very good.
I never tried it.
But anyway, what's the bean story?
So, well, apparently the Advertising Standards Authority, who are the people that, lord themselves over all the adverts that go out and decide whether they're decent, honest and truthful and all the rest of it, right? They get 9 complaints from people who say that this could encourage children to bang their hands on tins, which could cause them to cut their hands on the tins.
Absolutely ridiculous.
Therefore, the ad has been banned. Now, surely there should be some kind of,
appeal.
Sensible. Well, no, but there should be some kind of sensible number of people that complain before somebody gets banned. I mean, for all we know, these 9 people could be living in the same house. They could be living in the same street. They could be part of the same, co-op or collective.
Or they could be literally anti, multinational companies.
They could.
Which Heinz is one.
Yeah.
So let's try and destroy Heinz's reputation.
But how is it possible to ban something because 9 people object?
But not only that, it's ludicrous. I use can openers, and an efficient can opener does not leave rough edges at the other end of the can. And by the way, when you see the advert, they were only tapping the end that hadn't been opened anyway.
Course.
So it's utterly ludicrous.
It doesn't bear examination, but
utterly
ludicrous.
Bonkers. And I tell you what, I blame Heinz for pulling the advert. You should have just said go and.
I don't think they're allowed to
take a long walk off a shore pier, pal. Yes, I think they are.
I don't think it's in their gift. I think once the Advertising Standards Authority bans it, it's banned. It's as simple as that. We'll talk some more about that kind of stuff coming up. Also, of course, it is Porkyvision coming up a little bit later.
Yeah.
Now, you've upset that guy Alex in Manchester. He says, Mike, I own 15 properties. I started my letting agency from scratch 10 years ago and employed 12 people. You've just dismissed me when I listen to you every night. Thanks.
Who's that again?
Alex, the letting agent.
OK, Alex. Well, thank you very much indeed for getting in touch. Thank you for your contribution to the show. Congratulations on your success. You've clearly worked very hard and established a great business. You and I will just have to agree to disagree on the letting agent's fees situation, but I wish you well.
Yeah, don't take offence, whatever happens. No. Now, here's one from Gemma who says, the Heinz Beans ad is the worst I've ever seen.
Oh, really? I don't wonder it's been pulled.
Well, it's not particularly good. Well, I'd rather they ban things on the basis that they're rubbish, in which case half the ads that are out there would be banned. banned.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
not because 9 people who have got some kind of mad complex that children are going to start injuring themselves on unopened or open cans of beans.
I know.
That is not the way forward.
It's a sign of the times.
Fred says this: would the fat man consider hiring the Pencoid bog cleaner to maintain all his properties? If so, what would his fee be?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. Now, you just said something there. You said, because I was asking you about what happened in the sort of mini budget today.
Yes.
You said, Philip Hammond, probably the most boring Chancellor of all time.
I think so. Yeah, absolutely. I could not.
But I have a revelation.
Have you got a revelation about it? What, you mean he's actually done something interesting?
Well, when he was 18, apparently, so he was in the upper six. That was my equivalent of my last year at the King's School Chester, where I was rather raucous.
The equivalent.
You know what I mean? Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Did you go to the sixth form there then?
I was in the upper six. Yeah.
Oh, the upper six.
Yeah.
Oh, super. Congratulations.
Sorry, why do you mock everything that you've never aspired to?
Well, it's not a question of
aspiring to. Why do you mock
to
property owners like me?
I don't.
Why do you mock public schoolboys like me?
I mock public schoolboys because they deserve to be mocked. And you are not a public schoolboy. You went to a grammar school.
Why do you?
It was very same as I did.
Why do you
mock?
But
I don't sit there and make out I'm better than everybody else because I went to one of the top grammar schools in the country.
Why do you mock those who achieve, when you don't?
I don't. Well, I have achieved, actually.
Yeah? Oh, yeah?
Yeah, I think I've done rather well.
Oh, yeah. Have you got any statues at home saying you're best broadcaster and all that?
No, I haven't.
Yeah.
But I could make them like you made yourself.
No.
Where'd you get yours from?
You
got the one inside Talk Sport, didn't you?
Excuse me.
When you were programme director. You awarded it to yourself.
Excuse me.
Yes, you did.
It wasn't just Talk Sport. It was inside the media conglomerate, which was at the time.
UTV?
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah, I got nominated for one of those as well.
Yeah, rubbish. Anyway,
but you see, I don't judge my success on whether or not I've actually got a statue to look at every night when I go home on my own and stare at it for hours on end and go, haven't I done well?
Yeah.
That's not what I do.
No, well, I don't
do
that.
It's not my way.
Subliminally, it's a thought.
Right.
But anyway, listen, what they say here is they say, according to school friends, the Chancellor was a long-haired, fun-loving teenager with dreams of making millions. Yeah. But hang on.
Why wouldn't he be?
No, but you'll laugh a bit more with it, Fun-loving teenager with dreams of making millions. Excellent kisser. So a couple of young ladies here who he's had a little dalliance with, all very innocent, obviously at that age. He was also apparently known for running discos for his friends and afternoons spent boozing at the pub.
Oh yeah,
but when they get
like you,
but when they get down to the booze, this is where you and I differ with Philip Hammond. Okay, one friend reveals a naughty caper. She says, I can't believe this. We got hold of half a bottle of his parents' sherry and proceeded to drink it and randomly ended up having a bit of a cheeky snog. Who would have thought Philip Hammond was such a good kisser?
It's not exactly Sid Vicious, is he?
I was about to say, half a bottle of sherry.
Oh, goodness me. That reminds me of that great story that was told about, which I'm sure I've mentioned to you before, about some court case where one of our colleagues was covering it, and there was some kind of absolute kind of fall-down drunk alcoholic who was up in, for drunk and disorderly yet again.
What was this? In a
sort of
magistrate's court?
Magistrate's court. And the judge said to him, now, Mr. whatever his name was, I'm not going to say what his name was, I don't remember it.
Yes.
You must not drink now for the next period of your bail, which includes 4 weeks, and he says, and I'm talking about not even a dry sherry before lunch. As if that was what this guy was drinking.
Yeah, as if the guy would go begging in the streets and say, hey, you, give us a dry sherry before lunch or I'll punch your face in.
Why are you suggesting that he would be, for some reason, for Northern Ireland? Now, I mean, where does this guy go to school? Because it sounds as though it's all a bit twee.
Well, like all government ministers, he ended up at Oxford University, because they always do, don't they? And then they see the path to glory being through the political strata. He went to somewhere in Essex, Shenfield School.
Oh, Shenfield, okay.
Shenfield School, really, yeah.
Well, it doesn't sound particularly wild and crazy,
No, it doesn't sound wild or crazy.
You'd have to say.
It makes me laugh when, do you remember once Tony Blair, confessed, in the way that he used to as a church-going, God-fearing, Christian, that I think I'm drinking too much. Oh! And then he revealed that actually, yes, some nights before dinner, a large gin and tonic and perhaps a glass and a half of red over dinner.
Oh, yeah.
And, the whole of Fleet Street then sort of rebelled and said, but that's what we drink in the first 10 minutes at lunchtime.
Yeah, exactly.
By the time we've got to pre-dinner drinks, we are normally flying.
Yes, exactly
absolutely.
right. And we haven't even had anything to eat.
No.
How about this from Peter, who says, never knew horses could get colic, Porky. Your knowledge astounds me yet again.
They do, don't they?
Well, I don't know.
I'm sure they do.
I have no idea.
Well, I read a column...
I'm not an expert on horses and their diseases.
I read a column by Liz Jones, right, who writes about horses.
One of your
favourite
columnists.
My favourite columnist. She's a wonderful writer. And another one is Melissa Kite, right? She writes great columns about the countryside and all that. And they're always going on about the horses getting colics. It's very expensive to go and find a vet.
Oh, so these are sort of horse women complaining about the horses getting colic.
Yes, that's right.
Maybe they're just being told that by the stable hands so they can reap more money out of them.
Maybe.
Now, Peter says this. The Beans ad was apparently banned due to complaints of annoyance of the sound and not health and safety as the news reported. Well, I don't understand why the news would report that the Advertising Standards Authority have banned it because of 9 complaints about children's safety.
They don't ban it about sound.
No, exactly.
No. You won't believe this. I came across this amazing fact today, honestly. I mean, it's strange what I pick up on my travels through my journals when I have a moment, you know, even though I'm serving my country at the moment and the secret project is taking up almost all my time.
Yes.
I still find time.
Although you barely mentioned it, though.
To expand my time. Now, only yesterday we were talking about the Royal Navy, OK? And
was it not the day before?
Well, I think we've spoken about it on 2 days because we talked about the fact there's no ships in Portsmouth Harbour. There never have been. Talked about the fact that Lord West, the former First Sea Lord, said we haven't got enough ships now to defend ourselves.
But then, it was definitely 2 days ago because we had the guy from Rosyth, who was a security guard, saying that they're building 2 aircraft carriers even as we speak.
Yeah, we did,
But neither of them are called the Ark Royal.
No, that's right. But, of course, I get all these, publications, these journals about naval sea history and all that.
Oh, yeah.
I'm delighted to be able to tell you that the shortest war in the history of the world took place between Britain and Zanzibar.
Oh, funny you should say that because you mentioned Zanzibar.
I mentioned Zanzibar earlier, didn't I? Yeah. Now, this happened in August 1896, OK? What happened was the British had told the Sultan of Zanzibar to stand down.
OK.
We felt that he was putting too much of the profits of the British Empire into his own pocket. A bit really like the accusations that are made these days about overseas aid and all that kind of stuff, OK?
There's a touch of the Mugabes.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. He decided to ignore us. Now, you've heard of gunboat diplomacy, haven't you?
Yeah.
And what gunboat diplomacy
was kind of invented, that phrase, for that period of time, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, yes. And
you just send a gunboat and just let it sit off the coast.
Not even sit off the coast. What used to happen often was that in these places they would have lookouts posted in the trees. You know, in places like India,
right,
and some parts of Africa. Yeah, the trees. Yeah,
what trees?
Well,
India's a big country.
Sorry,
India's a big country.
Yeah, I know it's a big country, but like Zanzibar's not
very big.
It's an island.
Yeah,
it's an island, and they've got a lot of trees. So what they would have would...
Yeah, but what I'm saying is they could do it in Zanzibar. You couldn't do that in India.
Yes, you can. There's plenty of trees in India.
Yeah, I know, but you could sit in a tree in Delhi. You won't be able to see who's off the coast of Bombay.
No, you idiot. You'd sit in a tree on the coast, wouldn't you? There's no point sitting in a tree in the middle of, Central Square, Delhi, is there? Because you can't see...
Well, that's what I mean.
You can't see the sea.
Exactly.
So, yeah, but they're still sitting trees because trees are higher off the ground than beaches, OK?
Generally speaking.
Yeah, so what happened was, the minute you saw the Jolly Roger, right...
Right.
It's the Jolly Roger, isn't it?
No.
What's
the Jolly Roger means the pirates.
Oh, that's right, the pirates, yeah. No, the minute you saw the Union Jack...
Still a good idea to spot those, though, as well. Who's it? Is it the British Navy or is it...
Yeah. So the minute you saw the Union Jack fluttering on the horizon, it meant that was fluttering off the top of the mast of a Royal Navy warship, OK? Right. So what happened in Zanzibar was, right...
Technically the Union flag, I suppose.
The Union flag, yeah, but it's known as the Union Jack, isn't it? But anyway, so Zanzibar said no, declared war on Britain... It took exactly 38 minutes from the time that the Union Jack was spotted by the lookout in his tree on Zanzibar to the Sultan of Zanzibar surrendering.
Right.
Yeah,
38 minutes.
38
That's
minutes.
Pretty quick. And that includes travelling time, presumably from the top of the tree down to the bottom of the tree to run to the residence of the Sultan's house.
That's right, and say, sir... We have spotted a Royal Navy warship on the horizon, the Union Jack.
Was he from Japan, that guy?
From Japan, yeah. And then the Sultan said, OK, I give in. And that was it.
So what did they replace him with?
Well, he just stood down as... He was trying to make himself king of Zanzibar.
Oh, I see, right.
And we said, no, we still own Zanzibar, son. You're just, the local official.
The titular head.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. So anyway, luckily it was a bloodless coup. But he did actually... He declared war, and within 38 minutes of the Royal Navy ship arriving on the horizon, he had surrendered. That was the shortest war. It's recorded as the shortest war in the history of the world.
Fantastic.
Yeah. Isn't that great?
That's a very, very interesting piece of information.
I thought I'd let you know.
By the way, we're going to talk to Mark Donaldson in a moment. I just spotted a story on the back page of the Mirror.
Oh, yes.
Spurs want to abandon Wembley.
Yes.
Apparently, if they go into the Europa League, they don't want to play at Wembley. They want to play back at White Hart Lane.
Well,
they're asking UEFA if they can do it.
Yeah, well, I don't blame them for that. I think it was an ill-thought-out decision in the first place. But having said that, I assume they've got some sort of contract with Wembley, haven't they? They must have, I suppose.
I think so, yeah. But, I mean, I'm sure the money is less important to them than winning something. You know?
Cool, yeah.
But anyway, we should talk more about that. Mark Donaldson from ESPN coming up next.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Talk Sport, we are the Two Mics. There is, of course, a Porky quiz coming up, and it is coming up tomorrow on the show, and it will be on British Motor Racing Champions.
That's right, yes, it will be, yeah.
Or should we say, to be more precise, British World Motor Racing Champions.
British World Formula 1 Motor Racing Champions.
Yes, thank you very much
that's
indeed.
The full title.
David says this, horses definitely do get colic, and it's very dangerous for them. They do die from it.
Thank you.
Sharky says, did Porky give his statue of himself to his mother for her birthday, like he did with the portrait of himself?
No, I kept it. But I tell you what, I had to be very careful where I positioned it in my lounge.
Yes.
Because...
How big is it, this? Is it life-size?
No, you idiot. It's about 6 or 8 inches tall.
Right.
And it's chiselled out of, like, crystal glass.
I thought
it's
you
beautiful.
say fudge.
No, but the problem is... It can set fire to the house.
What?
So you've got to be very careful.
Why?
Well, because there's so many different angles on it that when the sun hits it, I'm not joking, it forms a prism.
Uh-huh.
And part of the prism throws heat onto the carpet.
Why don't you get a cover for it?
Well, I wouldn't be able to see it then, would I?
Well, when you go out, dopey.
No, because you can't. You'll always forget to put the cover
cover it
on.
with a cloak.
No. I've put it in a cabinet, prominently at the front of the cabinet, so I see it every time I walk into the room.
Cabinet?
A picture of me and Prince Charles. So, what's the problem?
Is this like a little shrine to yourself?
No. Picture of me and Prince Charles.
Is there that fake picture of you and Joan Collins in there?
No, you know where that is. That's
well, I've seen the newspaper copy.
That's in a frame.
I've seen the newspaper copy. I haven't seen the original picture.
And it's not a fake picture either. It's me and Joan Collins.
Yeah.
There's nothing fake about it whatsoever. And I resent you insinuating that I put together selfie, or what they call Photoshop pictures.
Yeah.
Because I certainly don't.
No, of course not.
What else is in my cabinet? Things like mementos from my very exciting 35-year career in Fleet Street and all that kind of stuff. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, for instance...
So we talk to Mark Donaldson instead of
piece of moon rock. Got a piece of moon rock.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Well, that's what you say.
No,
it's probably moon rock's probably... It's probably from Epsom.
No.
All right, let's talk to Mark Donaldson instead.
Yep.
Because I'm sure it'll be far more interesting. Mark, very good morning to you.
How am I meant to follow that?
Well, I don't think you are. We should start by wishing you a happy Thanksgiving, though, because it's almost Thanksgiving, isn't
Happy Thanksgiving.
Yeah, whatever that means. Thank you.
Yes.
I've been here 6 years, and I know you've been here, Mike, for a while. You spent a bit of time here. Did you ever get into it? Because
I loved it.
Well, I did because I was married to an American.
Yeah.
So I mean, it was kind of de rigueur. So I used to have to. Luckily for me though, because I didn't enjoy it very much because I didn't really like spending time with her family, which is what I had to do. Almost every Thanksgiving, something happened, and I would get a call from London to say, "Can you get back into town?" I remember once it was because Madonna and Sean Penn had split up,
right?
But it was always something like that, and I was always able to say on Thanksgiving morning, "I'm terribly sorry, guys.
Yeah, I've got to go.
I've got to get out of here."
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's good. I used to like it because I used to stick with the British community, Mark, and we, for instance, would go round to. Was it British Information Services in New York? The sort of consulate building,
That's right, yeah.
which was huge, and a guy called Mike somebody ran it. We used to have a great day. It was super. How are you going to spend yours?
We'll watch the Macy's parade in the morning. That's on 2 or 3 different channels, and then we've got 3 NFL games which will be on. We've been invited round to friends in the afternoon, and then we're going to have a British night tonight. One of the producers of ESPN FC is going to come round tomorrow night.
Excellent.
She's a former Sky News sports presenter.
Oh,
she
yes.
worked with Chris Scudder back in the mid-90s. So she's coming around tomorrow night. She's a friend of my wife.
Right, well, that's very good. Great. Have
Excellent.
a great night.
Yeah, well, I'm sure you will. But then there's always, for you, I guess, there's the football you can watch as well, the NFL.
Yeah, and obviously Man United against Feyenoord's on as well. So there's a plethora of games. We've got Detroit, Minnesota is the early one. Dallas, Washington, Detroit and Dallas always play on Thanksgiving, and then at night time, Indianapolis, Pittsburgh. We've got that. We've got Man United in the Europa League.
Are playing as well.
Yeah, they're in Prague to face Sparta, first against second, and obviously Inter in that group are struggling as well. So there's a lot going on tomorrow, and then we've got the chaos of Black Friday in a couple of days.
Yeah, well, we've unfortunately picked that up as well. Let's talk a little bit about the Champions League and the strangeness, shall we say, of Bayern not finishing top of their group, Real Madrid not finishing top of their group. Arsenal now looks like they're going to go into second. They might actually want to prefer to finish second, given that Bayern and Real Madrid are not going to be there.
It's weird because there's a statistic, I think it's like 81% of the teams that top their group then go on to win their first knockout tie, because a variety of things. The second one, of course, is that they're at home in the second leg. I mean, it's going to be tough for Arsenal, whoever they get, whether they finish first or second. I was disappointed in them against PSG, who are a decent side, but they're not the PSG of last year with Zlatan, who romped away with Ligue 1. They're not top of Ligue 1. They're struggling a little bit in their domestic football. They played some good stuff, but at times I wondered in that game who the home side were, because it was PSG taking it to Arsenal for long spells.
Well, exactly. And I mean, Mike had said it was a bit of a dead rubber, but, you know, Arsenal have gone through, 16 years in a row in second place, more or less, and always got knocked out pretty much in the next round. So maybe they had this opportunity to go through in primo position. They should have taken it.
I think so, and I was a bit surprised that they were rather insipid. Now, I think a lot of people have been saying, well, he's coming off the bench and scoring, let's give Giroud a start, and they did, but I don't know. I mean, I'm thinking ahead for the weekend. They've got Bournemouth at home. I'm thinking, well, if you're going to play Giroud, then maybe you play Alexis Sanchez on the left, which is where he prefers, and Theo Walcott would come in then for Alex Iwobi. But, I mean, a 0-0 draw would have done Arsenal, because they got the 1-1 draw in Paris. A 1-1 draw now would have been all sorts of things, but a 2-2 draw means PSG, if they beat Ludogorets in match day 6, they top the group. And, well, you can argue that there is an advantage being top of the group and not being second. That's why I was a bit surprised that Arsenal were rather insipid.
Yeah, and I mean, there can be some insipid games. I mean, the next round of Champions League, the group stage games is going to be pretty insipid. I mean, I was reading a stat, you might like this one. Apparently, in the Arsenal-PSG game, it's one of the first times, I think, in the Champions League that there were more goals than there were shots on target.
Indeed.
Because one of them was an own goal, which is, tells you all you need to know.
It certainly does.
Group C is a non-entity now, isn't it? Because Barca are going through as winners. Man City are also through. Mönchengladbach are in the Europa League, and Celtic will finish bottom. But I suppose England against Scotland, Manchester City entertaining Celtic, there'll be a little bit of rivalry to play for in that. But a lot of the groups have the top two are through. Arsenal and PSG are through. Tell you what, my favourite group's Group B, because Napoli, I watched their game against Dinamo Kiev. They were poor. They drew 0-0 at home with Dinamo Kiev, and they've now got Benfica on the last match day 6. There's 1 point separating the top three, but I have to say that's probably more in the minority when it comes to tight groups after 5 games.
You're absolutely right. Now, Mark, one thing that people have not yet realised, and you may have done because you're 2 paces back, so to speak, from being immersed in the Premier League in this country, is the devastating damage Spurs have done to themselves by not qualifying for the next stage. Because the Spurs' mission was to just keep getting better and better under Pochettino, and they've taken a massive reverse here, and it's now compounded by the fact that they're publicly stating how unhappy they are now by their decision to go to Wembley because they want to pull out of the contract and play the games back in a dilapidated, and only because it's being rebuilt, dilapidated White Hart Lane.
It's not really dilapidated.
Well, they've torn a bit of it down already, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
but I mean, I think Spurs are in crisis.
The weird thing about Spurs in this one is that Pochettino has rested players for the weekend to try and qualify for the Champions League again. Wait a minute here. He's just been knocked out of the Champions League, and now it's going to be the case of the Europa League. I read the quotes, and it's interesting you bring that up. I read the quotes from Sissoko, who was saying, well, I'd rather be back at home because while Wembley was great, it's not White Hart Lane.
Yes.
Now, they chased the money to go to Wembley, and they've made a fair bit of money out of that. I get that. However, would Group E be any different if Spurs had played their games at White Hart Lane? Now, I know UEFA have said, look, because you're doing all the renovations and whatever, you couldn't have played it at White Hart Lane. I get that. And I'm not saying they could have played their games at White Hart Lane. However, this whole Wembley thing, now, you guys will be no better than me, because with regards to Chelsea and Spurs maybe using Wembley over the next few years as well, if you had the choice, and Spurs didn't really have the choice, but if you had the choice, would you rather play in front of 85, 90,000 at Wembley, but it's not your home, although you'll get fortunes, or stay at, whether it's White Hart Lane or Stamford Bridge? What would you rather do?
Well, you'd rather be at your home. Sissoko's absolutely right, because there's a certain... I mean, look, every football stadium is a cathedral to its fans, OK? And when you start saying, look, let's go to the substitute ground, it simply isn't the same. Right. And that attitude from the fans' point of view undoubtedly permeates throughout the whole fixture and the game.
Was it Warren Barton we were talking to about this, I think, a few weeks ago, Mark? And I said, as a player as well, you're used to what the sounds are in the dressing room. You're used to where the coffee machine is or the water machine. You're used to the way the toilets are done. You go to a place like Wembley, everything's different. It sounds different. You feel different. The preparation's different. It has to have an effect.
Yeah, I mean, let me give you the Premier League. Let me give you an example of issues with the kind of home ground and issues with maybe playing somewhere else. It's their new home ground, West Ham. They played 6 league games there. They've won 2 of them. They haven't played that well. Now, in time, it might be something, and I'm sure West Ham fans will hope this is the case, but you look at West Ham's performances at home this season, they've taken a while to acclimatise as well. I remember when Hearts were in the Champions League qualifiers in 2006, they played some of their games at Murrayfield as well. It's just not the same.
Yeah.
It's very different. These vast stadiums with the running tracks or whatever. Give me the stadiums where the first row of fans are within touching distance of someone that takes a throw. Give me that kind of stadium over these brand new or whatever big 90,000 stadiums. Yes, you can make more money, but it's not always for the better.
No, that's absolutely right. It's never for the better, actually. I can't think of one example when it has been for the better.
Murrayfield, strangely, is an oddity in itself, isn't it? Because it's only got that little sort of quarter of a running track around one side of the stadium, which looks as if it's only made for the 100-metre dash or something,
Well, if a former owner of Heart of Midlothian had his way, that's where he would have sold Tynecastle for flats to Miller Homes and then ended up playing at Murrayfield. So thankfully that didn't happen. But no, look, I'm a traditionalist. I'd much rather the old stadiums with the kind of no running track where the fans are right on top of you than these new stadiums. But this is modern day football and money talk.
It is indeed. Now we've only got time for a little quick question and answer. Now, what's next for Jurgen Klinsmann? Do you see him coming back over to Europe?
Would you take him as England coach?
No.
I would, yeah.
No.
Anything other than Gareth Southgate?
No.
Porky disagrees.
Definitely
I don't know what's next. And look, it's interesting because England have gone for the safe option or are about to go with Southgate. USA are going for the safe option with Bruce Arena as well. And interestingly enough, the first thing he did when he was asked questions about who's going to be on your radar, he has got far less of a contempt for MLS than Klinsmann had. That's been his bread and butter. So he's trying to curry favour already. But they've gone for the safe option, and we'll see if it's going to be the right thing. Yes. Because there was talk about Miguel Herrera, the former Mexico coach, being in charge of the US. But I think Mr. Trump might have had something to say about that.
Yes, I suppose he might have done. He'd have to clamber over the wall. Mark, thank you very much indeed. Have a great Thanksgiving. Mark Donaldson from ESPN. Loads more coming up. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. We will be back, of course, on Saturday morning for the warm-up at 11 o'clock. You're getting some stick from the populace out there on Zanzibar.
I am.
They're being accused of getting it all completely and utterly wrong.
No. They've just, they say it wasn't a bloodless coup.
Yeah, well, apparently 500 people died.
No.
That's what I'm being told.
They can't have 500 casualties in a war that lasts 38 minutes. Don't worry about that.
Well, you certainly can. I'm not worried about it.
No, there was a bit of rioting subsequently, but, I mean, the actual war itself lasted 38 minutes. And
what about the 500 Zanzibarians killed or wounded, says Becky? It was a bloodless coup d'etat, says Porky.
Yes, yes, but the Zanzibarians were not killed by the British or by the guns of the Royal Navy or anything like that. It happened when rioting took place after the insurrection was put down. Do you see what I mean?
Well,
I mean, look, I'm very sorry about the loss of life. Of course I am.
Well, you didn't mention it, did you? You said it took 38 minutes for the guy to come down the
tree, was only talking,
run to the Sultan's palace and tell him to hop it.
That's right. But, I mean, I was only talking about the declaration of war, how long it lasted and how soon it was sorted out by a Royal Navy gunship. Yeah. I did not then feel it necessary to get into the subsequent civil disorder which followed.
Well, I may have to check this out for myself now.
Indeed.
Anglo-Zanzibar War, says Hetty, was not to do with money, it was to do with succession.
That's right.
Also, it was not bloodless, there were 500 killed. But Porky just makes this stuff up.
No, I didn't say say it was about money. I said it was about succession. You cloth-eared individual. Didn't you hear me say that it was a guy who assumed power and position of leadership in Zanzibar, and we told him to, hop it. And do one, so to speak, in the modern vernacular, and he didn't.
One? That's a terrible phrase.
Yeah, it is, actually.
I don't like that phrase.
No, I agree. I'll withdraw that.
I'm shocked that you've used it.
I'll withdraw that. No. I'm sorry. And but I mean it in the sense of, get lost, you know what I mean? Go and get lost. And I got my facts absolutely right. I can't be held responsible for the subsequent, as I say, civil disorder.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Now, I've got some good news for you, Ray. Okay. Becky in New Zealand, by the way. She finally has now got in her hot little hands a copy of the brand new Two Mics DVD.
Hooray!
And she sent me a special tweet to thank me for organising it for her.
Really?
After you'd sent her two of the old ones.
Really? Well, I didn't send her two of the old one. I don't send them out. I'm not in some little office all day because I'm on a mission at the moment looking after business for the country. I'm on a secret mission. I don't spend all day sitting in a little office putting the thousands of copies of the new DVD into envelopes, writing addresses on them and sending them off to people around the world.
Right.
We have a distribution company who does that for us very efficiently.
Well, apparently very efficiently, but not always very efficiently.
Yeah. Now, I will tell you what I want to talk to you about, because you're down in Sussex.
Yes.
I was down there recently, okay?
You were, yes.
Did you know that Sussex is literally an absolutely booming region for what we're going to call champagne?
Well, funny
champagne
you should say
country.
that, because I understand from something that I was told the other day that they've now been given permission to use the term Sussex to describe the sparkling wine that they produce.
Yeah, exactly.
So that it will be used in the same vernacular as champagne.
Well, this report I've got from my consumer journals, particularly to do with wine and food, it says Sussex is the latest foe to strike fear into the heart of the champagne country in France, OK?
Right.
Sparkling wine from the county has been granted protected regional status, bringing it in line with the elite wine-making regions of Europe.
Well, isn't that what I just said?
Well, I've
You've
clarified it.
elaborated on it.
I've clarified it technically.
I must say, I haven't actually tasted any Sussex sparkling wine.
Well,
so
it's about time you did.
Well, I suppose it is.
Yeah.
Well, my problem with the local vineyards down there, and some of them are very good, and some of them are obviously better than others.
Yes.
And there's a couple in Kent which are excellent. There's one particular one which is not that far from me.
Yeah.
And I've tried to visit it twice in order to buy some of their wine.
Right.
And there's never anybody there.
Really?
It's one of these places where you drive in.
Yeah,
right?
I know what you mean. Yeah.
And it's it looks a bit of a hippy-dippy sort of situation.
Yeah, exactly.
You can do a tour of the vineyards.
Yeah. Hello.
And you can see the vineyards.
Anybody there?
Yeah. And I
there.
parked the car and I wandered down, and there's a sort of caravan, which is where they operate their office from. And then they've got a bit of a warehouse.
Yeah.
And I could see stacks and stacks and cases of wine.
Yeah.
And they also had some Kia, which I thought I might like to try as well. And on two separate occasions I've been there, wandered about, shouted, knocked on doors, and nobody's there.
Well, here, let me tell you this. Tell you where you should have gone. The Rathfinny Wine Estate on West Sussex, Lullington Heath. You know of Lullington Heath?
Well, that's quite a long way from West Sussex.
Heath on West
it's the wrong side of Sussex.
Yeah, Nature Reserve said, we believe this will help Sussex become synonymous with high-quality sparkling wine. So when you go into a bar in London or Tokyo, that's ambitious, isn't it? You will be asked, would you like a glass of champagne or a delicious glass of Sussex?
Yes.
Now, that's quite something, isn't it?
Well, it is quite something. And I wonder whether, one of my favourite restaurants is called Roast in Borough Market, which sells a lot of English wine.
Right.
And we'll have it there, because maybe we should go there and try a bottle of it. They've got a very nice bar, actually.
Okay.
So, next time we go to Borough Market, I'll take you up to Roast.
That's a very good idea.
They do breakfast there as well.
Do they?
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting.
So maybe we should go for champagne breakfast.
Maybe
or a
we go for champagne breakfast. We're going to be working a few day shows, aren't we, in the next couple of weeks?
We are, hopefully.
Once I finish my secret mission.
The end of your secret mission, yeah.
But look, it says here, Sussex wines had already been gaining international acclaim. Earlier this year, sparkling wine producers from the county won 9 gold medals at the prestigious International Wine and Spirit Competition Awards. But the new status will limit the grape varieties that can be used to make Sussex wines and will insist upon hand harvesting. Wow, that's labour intensive.
Hand harvesting?
Yeah, and lower yields.
Sounds like a euphemism for something, doesn't
it? It does, yeah. And we won't get into that. This is a family show. And lower yields in vineyards, ensuring that only the best... Vineyards, that's right, yeah, vineyards. Ensuring that only the best grapes are used.
Yeah.
The stricter wine-making rules will also include a qualitative assessment and longer bottle aging for the sparkling wine.
Sure. Well, why not? I mean, certainly I've had some very nice English wines. They are very much on the increase in terms of their quality. Now, you might remember last night we talked about Latin, and you said Latin was a dead language.
Indeed,
and JPK said that actually, no, they use it to broadcast a particular programme in Finland, right?
What, Latin?
In Latin, yeah.
Why?
Well, we mentioned this last night, but he sent me... But he also sent me a tweet, which we didn't have time to do yesterday.
Yes.
Because he knew that you were a bit of a Latin scholar, having studied it at the King's School, Chester.
Yes, that's right.
So I've got a little Latin phrase that he sent you. Would you like to tell us what you think it means?
Sure.
Now, you may need to write this down, because it's quite a lot of words, right?
No, don't worry, I'll remember.
All right. Quid est enim?
Yes.
Is the and then followed by a question mark.
That's who is enim, yeah.
Periculos dico quem ad modum accepturi omnes populi haec lingua summa est.
Okay, yeah, fine. It means, who is the person who can most bring joy and clarity to your life? Name this person now for me.
Okay.
Okay?
Well, that sounds good.
Thank you.
I'm not suggesting that's wrong or right. I don't know.
That's what it is.
I don't know
that's
the
what
answer.
It is. It's quite a well-known...
I studied Latin for 4 years, and in my 5th year at school, they decided that we weren't going to do an O-level in it, so we stopped studying it.
Okay, so you can't interpret that then, and I can.
Well, it's not a question of whether I can and you can't or whatever. It's just that he asked me to ask you what it said. Well, we don't know whether that's right or not.
I just did.
If JPK is listening, I'm sure he'll tell us.
Just getting back to the champagne, you see, one of the reasons I brought that up, because it was knowledge in the back of my head, is I open every national newspaper that will drop on the doormats tomorrow morning, right? And this is how the industry's changed since you and I were there.
Yeah.
And on pages 2 and 3, which would always normally hold the most important stories in the paper, especially, the lighter ones rather than the political. Well, political ones on page 2, and then something nice, light and bright on page 3, which of course used to be page 3, in
the Sun.
But
and also the Mirror used to do a bit of that.
That's right, the topless and all that. Page 2 and 3 in every national newspaper tomorrow morning. Look out, and then it names a particular brand of champagne. At a particular supermarket.
Yes.
Was £30, now £20. Christmas, bring it on. And it's a huge 2-page spread advert in every paper. Oh, yeah. So that reminded me that they're going to have competition in years to come.
Well, you'll be able to go down there
and glass of Sussex.
Fill your shopping bags.
That's right.
And unfortunately, you haven't at this stage got the thing that opens your car doors without you having to do anything.
No, and somebody rather unkindly said that the face recognition problem with my car would be if Kenny Rogers happened to walk down the same street where my car was parked, the doors would suddenly open.
Yes.
That's very nice,
exactly
isn't it?
Right. Daniel says on your Latin, I think you just summoned up the devil.
No, I didn't. No, don't worry, I got it right.
Are you sure?
Yeah, Latin's a very difficult language to interpret because it can have several meanings, and Latin can only properly be understood in context, okay?
Is that right?
So when you read, the great Latin scholars...
Like who?
Eh? No, you know what I'm talking about.
Like who?
Well, the guys who wrote in Latin in Roman times and all that. Yeah, eh?
Well, yeah, like who?
Well, Plato and all them.
Plato's Greek.
He's Greek, that's right, yeah. But I mean, actually, ancient
Socrates.
Socrates.
He was Greek as well.
No, yeah. But ancient Greek and Latin are sister languages.
What about Homer?
Homer,
the Iliad.
Homer, the Iliad.
That was Greek.
But the ancient Greek and Latin are sister languages.
Well, I told you.
They're a bit like Portuguese and Spanish.
You saw the picture I sent from Sicily. Of me in that sort of amphitheatre, which many people might have looked at and thought, well, there's a Roman amphitheatre. It was actually a Greek amphitheatre.
It was a Greek amphitheatre, indeed, yes, okay, yeah. Well, anyway, look, what I'm saying is, the great Latin scholars like, I'm trying to remember now.
Like who?
Are you sure the Iliad was Greek?
Yeah, I'm sure, yeah.
Okay, well, anyway, what I'm saying is that if you studied classics at sort of St John's College, Oxford, which my godson did. No, my godson did.
Well, maybe you should give him a ring. Phone a friend.
Yeah, exactly.
See the time, by the way.
He says there is no direct translation, and that's why you study the classics, because you have to study them in context with what they're written about and the times, and make your own interpretation
I
of them.
see.
Okay.
Marcus says we have a bar in Barbados called Zanzi's Bar, but it's actually a gentleman's club.
Oh, where's this? Where's that?
Barbados.
Oh,
There used to be a bar on 3rd Avenue near where I lived on 36th Street called the Zanzi Bar and Grill.
That's right, they did. I remember
Which
that.
was a great place.
Oh, we're going to Barbados.
Yeah, all right, calm down. We're not going to Zanzibar.
In the sunny Caribbean Sea.
Yeah. This is Talk Sport.
Great record.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
People are strange when you're a stranger. Faces look ugly when you're alone. Women seem wicked when you're unwanted. Street faces come out of the rain when you scream.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two mics. Coming up very, very shortly, we're going to be talking to Guy Norris from Aviation Week and Space Technology on supersonic passenger jets. And
we sure are.
We're likely to be seeing them. But I've got here in my hot little hands, right, a copy of some very luxurious items.
Oh, yes.
There's what can they be described as a sort of Christmas gift for luxury items.
Oh, okay.
That I've got in front of me.
Right.
So I'm going to tell you about all the things that you should be thinking
from
about.
your new superior catalogue,
That's right, yeah.
Yes, okay.
Now, one of the things that you should apparently have, if you're a bit of a globetrotter, which you claim to be, is some stylish and innovative luggage. Which I'd have to say you don't have. You do not possess any decent luggage.
How do you know?
Because I've seen you travelling to places like Liverpool, Glasgow,
well, that's only domestically.
Manchester.
That's only domestically.
What do you mean? I saw you in Mallorca.
Yeah, okay.
You had a plastic bag with you when you turned up.
Yeah, but I only came for the day.
A carrier bag.
Yeah, I know, but I only came for the day.
Well, that's not really.
I left my quality luggage back at the hotel, and
it doesn't really come under innovative and stylish, does it?
Bits and pieces I had to bring with me, like my sunglasses and my peaked hat, to save my bonds from getting burnt. And I brought them in a plastic carrier bag. So what?
Well, here's what you should be. The man about town should have this, right?
Yeah.
It's a Serapian Evolution small trolley, specially treated to make it resistant to water and scratches. Yeah. The Evolution's case is made from printed calf skin with a texture exclusive to the discerning Italian furniture business.
Oh, don't be ridiculous.
How much do you think for that?
Well, I want what? Well, a trolley.
Well, it's a suitcase on wheels, which any sensible person has for walking through airports and walking around.
Yeah. What, 350 quid?
£1,350.
I wouldn't waste my money on it, mate. You
spent 75 quid on a pair of wellies, though.
Yeah, why not? Because they're practical and useful, yeah?
How about Louis Vuitton Horizon 55?
What is it?
Created by design legend Mark Newson. This case stands out for its technical prowess, shock-absorbing mesh matrix shell, and to an extendable handle, smartly located outside the bag, 2,700 quid.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's just a waste of time,
That's the kind of thing you would buy.
The only sort of people who need those are people like... Posh Spice and Colleen Rooney.
Right.
So that when they're coming through an airport, there's usually a bloke behind them with a huge, not a trolley, what is it? That's bigger than a trolley. It's like a...
Well, those things that they push around.
Yeah, but huge.
The porters have.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, a huge thing with 8 or 10 cases on, and they've all got to be good quality because they're in the public eye. But I'm not at all prissy or fussy about my luggage that I travel with.
No, I've noticed that. That's why I'm saying it's the one part of your kind of accessories, shall we say, that is pretty dowdy.
I've got a Louis Vuitton golf bag.
Why?
Well, because when I keep it in the boot...
You don't play golf?
Well, I keep it in the boot of my car, and in it is one big driver, one... Sorry,
why do you keep a Louis Vuitton golf bag in the back of your car?
I'm just about to tell you. It's got one big driver, a smaller driver, and a couple of... I forgot what they're called now.
That's proving you don't play golf.
No. Irons. A couple of irons.
A couple of irons?
Yeah, a couple of irons.
Always good to have a couple of irons in the fire.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, do you know what number they are?
Yes, a 7 and a 5.
So you have a 7 iron, a 5 iron, and 2 drivers.
That's right, yeah.
What sort of course are you going to be playing with those?
No. What I do is I suddenly get the urge to go to a driving range, because certainly down on the coast there's one of those, they're called American developments, golf developments.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah, it's a national chain. It's called American.
You may well be right, but I don't go there, so I don't know. I've never heard of it.
It's out of touch. And I'm
out of touch. If I want to play golf, I go to a golf course.
And but I mean, because I play intermittently now, I like to get my eye back in. So I go to the old driving range and I whack a load of balls. Usually
maybe that's
with
why
the
you got sciatica.
Well, it's good for sciatica, actually.
Well, when was the last time you hit a few balls on a driving range?
Probably 3 months ago.
Really?
Yeah, I would say so.
Well, maybe that's another challenge for us.
What?
We go to a driving range and we film it, or we go to a golf course.
Yeah, that sounds good to me.
What do you think?
Sounds good to me. Be a good one for the new website.
Now, here's something
we haven't
else
built at the moment in Munich, in Germany.
Yeah, it's taken almost as long as the last time they built a tank there.
It is.
How about this from Dunhill? A Dunhill shoe kit.
Yes.
£595.
Ridiculous.
I mean, you haven't got proper shoes anyway, have you? So you wouldn't be any point in you polishing anything.
No, I've got lots of proper shoes, but
I've never seen you wearing them.
I just wouldn't pay that. My shoe kit is a Tesco's bag with a tin of black polish, a tin of
brown polish.
What are you doing? What are you doing with your journal?
I'm just folding it.
Can't you do it properly without causing a fuss and making noise?
Well, I'm sorry, I'm interrupting your incredible flow of information.
Yeah, I have a tin of black polish, I have a tin of brown polish, and I have 2 smear-on brushes, and I have...
Smear-on?
Yeah, to put the polish on the shoes, and then 2 buff brushes to brush it.
And you carry all this in a plastic bag?
Well, it's in a plastic bag underneath the sink where I keep my shoe cleaning stuff.
All right.
But also, because I'm smarter than the average bear, I have 2 extremely expensive toothbrushes.
Really?
Which I use to...
to clean the shoes?
Yes, to polish the rims of the shoes where the leather meets the sole.
Why would you use expensive toothbrushes for that? Why not just use a pair of cheap ones?
Because if you use cheap ones, the bristles tend to come out.
Right.
I've
How
often
do you do this ritual?
Well,
you don't wear ordinary shoes through the week. I mean,
no, I don't do it. I don't do it. My housekeeper does it.
Well, what's the point of her cleaning shoes that never get dirty?
Well, the point is she cleans them till I wear them. Then when I've worn them, I leave them by the back door and she does them again.
Right.
It's not a problem.
Now, if you were thinking of purchasing a gift for your inamorata...
Yes.
Which you may be doing this Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, is that right? Could that be the case?
Could be.
How about a treasure trove, which is a beautiful range of sort of jewellery boxes, basically, in candy-coloured shades.
Right.
Of something called shagreen.
Yes.
An impossibly pretty home for your most precious possessions. 480 quid.
Yeah, but I mean, I think I'd rather buy my amour, as you have entitled my friend.
You're talking about Sarah?
Excuse me, let's not get personal. And
you've given her name out before.
I think,
hey, how's it going with the woman from the 3 Degrees, by the way?
I think, we're in constant touch through social media. I think it would be better to actually buy her a necklace or a bracelet or something rather than a box to put them in.
Well, make sure you don't mess it up.
Not much point in getting the box without the jewellery.
Let's make sure you don't mess that up, shall we? Because we haven't actually we haven't told the story of when you appeared laden down with gifts to bribe all the members of my family with presents last weekend, right?
Yes, well,
and you'd bought a separate piece of jewellery for my daughter, whose birthday it was, and for the mother of my children.
I did.
However, unfortunately for you, you handed out the wrong piece to each person.
Well, they were gift wrapped.
But did you not know that they were 2 different shapes?
This
tells me. Do you know what this tells me? This tells me that you got somebody else to buy them.
No, I didn't.
You had no idea what was in them.
No, I didn't.
And you handed out each one, thinking that they were to the correct woman. And in fact, I mean, luckily the 2 women concerned are not particularly bothered about these things. But you could have caused a war, a riot.
No. Come on, a few years back.
One was a necklace, one was a bracelet.
Yes. Now, a few years back, when Emma first arrived on these shores, and it was a particular birthday, and I bought a pearl necklace.
You did, yes.
And she's always liked it since.
Freshwater pearls.
What?
Freshwater pearls.
Freshwater pearls. That's right. So, as it was another birthday, I thought I'll compliment that with a bracelet, which I did. But then I got them both gift wrapped in the same jewellers, and I bought the mother of your children, lovely lady, a necklace, as a gift for entertaining me for the weekend, and unfortunately I got the wrong boxes, but they were both delightfully.
It was a bit of a blunder,
understanding women. No, it wasn't.
It was a bit of a blunder.
No.
All I'm saying, in other circumstances, it could have gone horribly wrong.
Well,
so if you are in the business of handing out gifts to your inamorata at Christmas time, you might want to make sure you don't get it wrong. For example, if you're giving something to your friend, as you call her, and then your new friend from the 3 Degrees, you wouldn't want to mess that up.
No, you wouldn't.
Because that could cause ructions.
That could cause ructions. Listen, talking about getting to near Christmas and Christmas carols and all that, right? Yeah. I've had a look at a study of musical notes and all that. Now, do you know what a non-lexical vocable is?
No.
A non-lexical vocable is this. Here, I'll sing it to you, okay? Let me just think this through. Right, how about this? Deck the halls with... hang on. Yeah, that's right. Here we go. Right, here we go. Deck the halls with boughs of holly, fa-la-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Right, now you got the fa-la-la-la-la-la-la-la. Yeah. That is called a non-lexical vocable.
Is it?
Yeah.
Why?
Because when musicians use la-la-la or dee-dee-dee,
what about da-do-do-do, da-da-da-da?
Yes, that's right. These are non-lexical vocables, and that's defined as a non-word, a form or sound without a meaning. They emulate the sound of musical instruments and allow us the joys of vocal improvisation. Non-lexical vocables are used in yodeling, okay?
Some of the stuff you come out with, some of the stuff you come out with could be described as that as well, because you say you make noises, but that doesn't mean anything.
No, Irish and Scottish folk music, Native American music, African chant.
Right.
You know, like stuff that Paul Simon did.
We talked about
Simon last night. Rap music.
Yeah.
And beatboxing.
Okay.
So, you get yourself, when you claim to be on the old karaoke, you can get a beatbox with that, can't you? Rapper. But the one I love, the favourite one...
You've seen the time.
Do you remember, you know why I picked that one? Deck the halls with bells of
it's the only one you could sing.
Fa la 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 la.
Is it the only one you can sing?
No, I remember when I was a kid, who borrowed that for a Christmas advert.
Who?
Tell the time with Christmas Timex. La 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 la.
Do they still sell those, by the way?
What, Timex watches?
I've never seen
I don't think so. But they did, didn't they? Do you remember?
Not really.
Yeah, ring the bells with Christmas Timex. Fa la 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 la. You didn't know that was called a non-lexical vocable.
I know now, but I'll probably never ever use that phrase.
And Paul Simon and the other guy, Art Garfunkel.
Yeah.
Na na na. Na 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 na. What song is that?
Eh?
Na 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 na.
Oh,
the
it's
Boxer.
the Boxer, isn't it? Which you also sang last night. It's the only one song that you know of there,
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I don't think it's na na na, but we'll get back to that later. Coming up next, we're going to talk about supersonic planes. Believe it or not.
Okay.
I need to be myself. I can't be no one else. I'm feeling supersonic. Give me gin and tonic. You can have it all, but how much do you want?
That's a good choice of song, isn't it?
Very good.
Supersonic.
Yeah, very appropriate.
You know that one, right?
Yes.
We're talking to Guy Norris now. He's a senior analyst with Aviation Week and Space Technology, because there is talk of a supersonic passenger jet returning to the skies. A long time, of course, since Concorde flew across the Atlantic after that terrible accident in France. But let's find out from Guy how much of this is science fiction and how much of it is science fact. Guy, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the show.
Yes, good morning to you.
Thank you very much indeed for joining us. Now, Mr. Parry, unfortunately for me, has been on Concorde. I haven't. How close are we to something like this actually being, viably commercial?
Well, it looks like they really are getting serious about it this time. There's been a lot of talk potentially about this in the past, but everything is sort of coming together at the right time. Technology is coming through. You've got new engines, new design processes, and new materials. So it's the big three.
Well, you say that, Guy, and I have no reason to doubt you're expert in this field, but it's a fact, isn't it, that the only reason that Concorde flew commercially for British Airways and Air France was because both those governments literally put billions of pounds into the development of the aeroplane and then actually gave it away and handed it over to their privatised, not in Air France's case, but certainly in England's case and British Airways, they handed it over to a private company. Otherwise, British Airways would never have been able to have funded the Concorde itself, would it?
No, you're absolutely right, and that was a very unusual set of circumstances, but it's hard to believe. I mean, even though Concorde does seem even today to be a modern, lovely-looking aeroplane, when it was retired in 2003, it was already a 50-year-old design.
That's right.
And it's hard to believe it, but that's true. They did a marvellous job in the 60s, but, move forward now 50 years and you've got a lot of material and technology which they just didn't have then.
Well, that's absolutely true, but having said that, and again, I don't want to cast aspersions on the people who've got this great plan, because I hope it comes to fruition, but if it's associated with the Branson spacecraft mission, that in itself has stalled a number of times, hasn't it? And so I'm looking for some sort of, line of successful development of these sort of supersonic space-type machines.
Yeah, right, yeah. Well, the thing about this one is that although, Virgin Galactic is going to the edge of space, and we'll go at Mach 3.5. This is something which is more doable, if you like. It's Mach 2.2, so just a little bit faster than Concorde was.
Yes.
And it's going to be smaller. It's only going to seat up to 50 people, so it's about half the size of Concorde. So,
which in itself was a small aeroplane, wasn't it?
And also, is that going to mean that it's possible to make it commercially viable? Because obviously there will be fuel efficiencies facilities that we have now. But presumably, I mean, one of the quotes I've read from one of the guys from Boom Technology is that he wants to make it affordable as well.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the difference is that he reckons that you could probably get a good profit out of this at today's business class prices. You know, so you wouldn't have to charge an arm and a leg like you had to with Concorde. The other thing about this is that they're not trying to minimize sonic boom, which is the ironically called Boom Technologies.
Yeah.
But I mean, a lot of these other new designs are trying to get over that sort of the problem of generating the sonic boom, which killed Concorde, frankly. They're just trying to say, look, we're going to design this to fly over water really fast, and it will never really be impacted by the law. Even if they change it, will still be good.
But I liked the boom. I thought the boom was great. When Concorde came into Heathrow...
but you didn't hear the boom when it was coming into land.
No, well, I'd never heard it, but I mean, I didn't mind it. But when Concorde was coming into land at Heathrow, it used to turn over my apartment in Epsom, Surrey, and it was the most beautiful sight in the world to see this white dart, flashing past one way, turning around and coming back the other. And we need that back. We need it badly. But you said commercially you think it'll be more viable this time. I'm not sure about that. I mean, as you quite rightly say, there's going to be no more than 50 people, so that'll be one person either side. Everybody has a window seat. I mean, that is some kind of exclusive aeroplane.
Well, it is to an extent. You're absolutely right, but they've done studies over here which indicates that you could be looking at a market for up to 1,300 of these aircraft. So that's a $260 billion market if it all comes
yeah,
off.
I mean, I wonder whether you're right there, guy, because I mean, one thing that I have to do an awful lot of is flying with my family. Flying has now become such a drudgery. In terms of, the time you have to queue up before security, the times you have to go through everything else. I mean, even if it was just a little bit more expensive than what you might call a standard class ticket, I'm sure you get lots of people who'd be willing to do it if they could provide the services on, ground side and, all of that so that people didn't have to go through the horrors of an airport.
Right, of course. I mean, there's no doubt about the market potential in that sense because people want to go back to those days of sort of, flying was a pleasurable experience, and if it's only going to take you half the time as well, that's even more, even more of a benefit. So it's just the way that they're doing this is they're looking at making the whole structure out of composites. So if you go from square one and look at it a much lighter airframe, then it means that everything else is more doable and it's easier to get an engine that's going to push you to Mach 2.2. The temperatures aren't a problem anymore. And, of course, it's a lighter airframe so that you're using less fuel to go the same distance. So it's a virtuous cycle, which is what the difference is this time.
And I suppose it's fair to say the world's a richer place now than it was when Concorde was flying, isn't it? Concorde was for the absolute elite, wasn't it? It was for, international film stars, for the very wealthy, the very rich. Whereas now, if you had a flight, which I think is one of the designated routes from San Francisco to Perth, across the Pacific Ocean or something like that, there's an awful lot of people around who could afford those seats now that weren't around when Concorde was here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, of course, if they get their price point down to, say, admittedly still a bit expensive for most people, but a regular business class ticket,
yes,
then, of course, that does bring it into a much richer scene, if you like. Yeah.
It does,
and also, you've had all these business-only type airlines that have started up and died because in the end they weren't able to get anybody there any quicker. But if you start up a business-only transatlantic service, for example, and you got people there quicker, I'm sure they'd do really well.
Yeah.
And just talking about that, guy, I don't know if you saw a story a few hours ago over here about Michael O'Leary from Ryanair, who says that airports are now becoming such cash cows that actually he foresees a time where ordinary sort of air travel will become not only very, very cheap but possibly free because of the amount of money people will be spending at airports.
I know, I'll believe it when I see it, really, to be honest.
Well, certainly with Michael O'Ryan, who charges you £2 to go to the loo if he had his way, and £5 to stand at the back of the plane and all that kind of stuff, £8 a bag to put it on there.
What about Michael O'Leary?
Yeah, Michael O'Leary, that's who I'm talking about, yeah. And but nevertheless, it does illustrate, doesn't it, the vast commercial hubs that airports have become. For instance, I'm told that Terminal 5 at Heathrow actually generates more money on a daily basis than Bond Street in London's West End.
Right, exactly. It's a whole different business model to anything that they were looking at in the 60s, when these were just pivotal. There was only London and New York, basically, or Paris and New York. Now you've got this global network of big hubs which are attracting travellers from all over the planet, and there's so many, as you quite rightly say, more people with sort of disposable income that there never was 50 years ago.
That's right.
So finally, Guy, I mean, if you were to put a sort of a crystal ball in front of you and say, when are we likely to see one of these passenger jets possibly being put into commercial use? How far away is it?
Well, not too far away. I mean, they tell me that they're looking to make their engine decision in the next 2 years, which would indicate being literally into service by about 2023. Mm-hmm. So...
might be too late for you, Porky. If it's too late for Porky, only 1/3 of his heart works.
It's never.
He's not going to be around that long.
That's nice, isn't it? Eh? That's a nice, sort of camaraderie type streak
7
in the
years.
Show. Guy, I just want to ask you finally. You may know something or nothing about this, but Donald Trump, who's president-elect of the United States of America, says, "I'm going to fly my own plane. I don't care about Air Force One." I mean, that's impossible, isn't it? His own plane won't be sort of fitted with Sidewinder missiles, will it, to ward off attackers?
Yes, I'm afraid the Secret Service will probably have to insist on him travelling by Air Force One, whether he likes it or not.
That's right.
So, and you're right. I mean, who knows? Maybe he'll be in a Boom Technologies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, Air Force One's got an operating theatre. So, if he suddenly gets some kind of a stroke or attack or something like that... Yeah. I bet you his own plane hasn't got an operating theatre.
Well, you might have.
Well, he might have, but I mean, I very much doubt it. But anyway, look, he wants to live in Trump Tower in New York. That's going to cause the Secret Service an enormous amount of headaches as well.
Guys with Aviation Week, what are you talking to me about Donald Trump
for? Because Donald Trump is the President-elect of the United States, and that's going to affect everybody's lives, including old Guy Norris.
I suppose so.
Yes.
Well, listen, Guy, thank you very much indeed for taking the time to talk to us. That's Guy Norris, a smashing fellow from Aviation Week and Space Technology. Thank you for not being rude to him, as you normally are to many.
No, I'm not. I mean, the man knew about things. I respect people who know about things.
You knew about things.
You knew about things.
Yeah. JPK, by the way, has been on and said, "Dear, oh dear, your knowledge about Latin scholars." He suggested we may have to do a quiz on it.
Nah, don't worry about that.
Not this week. I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Do you know what that was?
Well, this is you shouting.
Oh, I wonder what that was, yeah. But that was a 1970s, early 1970s hit.
Yeah.
By, I think it was a group called Steam Engine.
Could be, I don't know. I remember the song, but I couldn't tell you.
And it's called Na Na Hey 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 Na 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 Na.
Is it Say Goodbye
Hey 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 Say Goodbye. And we adopted that at Goodison to Na 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 Hey 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 Colin Harvey.
Really?
Na 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 na.
It's not very imaginative,
na,
is it?
Na na na.
So you could have done that for anybody.
Howard Kendall.
So you did it for anybody with four syllables in their
That's
name.
Right.
You could have made it Michael Parry.
Hey, hey, hey. Alan Ball. Well, they were the three great midfield players.
Try and do it with Roberto Martinez.
Yeah,
Go on, try it.
Na 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 na. Why Martinez? He's not our manager.
Just try it.
Na 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 na. Na 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 na. Hey, hey, hey. Ronald Koeman. It works.
Yeah, but not with Roberto Martinez. I told you.
Well, I didn't care about Roberto Martinez anymore.
You used to think he was a great man.
He's the Belgian manager. Why would I care about him?
Yeah, well.
Anyway, listen.
Posty and Brum says this. Hang on, Freddie Mercury, who you're going to talk about later, was born in Zanzibar, I believe.
Yeah.
It is part of Tanzania and also called the Spice Islands.
That's right.
He says.
Right, and guess what my favourite sort of eatery down in Old Portsmouth is called?
I've no idea.
The Spice Island Inn.
I see.
Because they used to bring the spices back from Zanzibar.
From Zanzibar. So
yes.
there's a bit of a Zanzibar theme.
Absolutely,
coming through.
Yeah,
I think the best singer using non-lexical vocables, Porky, is George Benson. He made some great songs.
Is that right? Well, let me tell you this. Non-lexical vocables have been taken to the most sophisticated form in jazz music, where they are called scat.
Scat, yes.
Right, did you know that?
Yeah, Claire Lane used to be big at that.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And going all sort of boo-boo-boo-boo.
Yeah, sort of, yeah. I'm not even going to attempt to try and do it, yeah.
Yeah, well, anyway, I'll give it...
Yeah, of course I knew that.
Oh, did you? Well, yeah, but you didn't know anything about non-lexical, did you?
I've never heard it called that before.
Well,
that's a ridiculously kind of, academic term for something which you can explain by playing a simple piece of music.
No, it's the
It's the sort of thing that you think is impressive.
It's the non-lexical vocal. Anyway, let me tell you the history of this.
Biloxio.
So, scat singing form of vocal improvisation, which a vocalist can imitate an instrument by singing nonsense syllables, OK?
Well, you actually speak nonsense syllables.
Instead of lyrics, and ad-lib according to the harmony played underneath the solo. So, for instance, bibbidi-bibbidi, doo-wop, razzmatazz, scooby-dooby, shoobity, bee-bop-bop-up, aluzia shabazz. How about that? That's good, doesn't it?
Sounds like Porkyvision.
That's right. Now, such solos often involve scales and arpeggio fragments.
Arpeggio, yeah.
Arpeggio fragments, like any instrumental improvisation, as well as motifs and different rhythms.
Right.
Now, it was invented, believe it or not, by Louis Armstrong. Now, Louis Armstrong...
What, scat was?
Yeah, scat was, yeah.
He certainly was a proponent of it. I'm not sure he invented it.
He did, and I'll tell you how. Now,
Louis
Armstrong, who was born in 1901, was in fact known as Satchmo, wasn't he?
He was.
Now, why was that?
I've no idea.
He had a mouth like a satchel.
What?
He had a mouth like a satchel.
A mouth like a satchel?
Yeah, that's why he's called Satchmo.
Why was he called Satchel then?
Well, he was Satchel Mouth, Satchmo. You see what I mean?
Who came up with that rubbish?
What do you mean?
Well, that is not in any way going to make me think of a satchel mouth.
Well, that's
Satchmo.
Yeah, because he had sort of big jowls around his jaws, and that's how he developed the unique sound of his show. You got all the time in the world.
Yeah, that's nothing like him, by the way.
You know, and that's why he was known as Satcho. Now, so anyway, what happened was he was an early exponent and perhaps made the first scat recording with his band, who were called...
I don't know, what were they called?
The Heebie-Jeebies.
Were they?
Yeah, the Heebie-Jeebies.
I mean, I wasn't even alive during this time, so why do you think I would know any of this stuff?
Neither was I. This is in 1926, right?
Yeah.
Now, what happened was he and his other band, who were called...
I don't know.
The Hot Five.
The Hot Five?
Yeah, the Hot Five, right. That was his other band.
What happened to the previous band, the Heebie-Jeebies?
I think the Heebie-Jeebies were having the night off at the time. So he's with the Hot Five, OK? And they were recording when Armstrong dropped the lyric sheet. He literally dropped the lyric sheet.
Oh, what, you mean just by accident?
By accident. Yeah. And as it was a live recording that we were making at the time, he just proceeded to scat, singing as though he were playing the trumpet to cover his mistake. The band chose to release that version of the song, propelling scat into the spotlight, OK? Now, other very famous exponents of scat were Cab Calloway.
Cab Calloway, yeah.
Who's he?
Well, he was a singer in a sort of a jazz orchestra.
Oh, was he?
Cab Calloway, yeah. My dad used to like him quite a lot.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
But the most famous exponent of all time, Ella Fitzgerald.
Yes.
And in a live recording of Oh, Lady Be Good... was once analysed and found to contain 525 individual non-lexical vocables.
I see. I'm surprised they don't mention Cleo Lane, though. Because there was Cleo Lane, her husband, Johnny Dankworth.
Oh, yeah,
right?
I mean the old doobie-doobie-doo and all that kind of stuff.
Well, she was a scat singer.
Oh, was
she?
She
was very talented as well.
So there you go, you see. You didn't know any of that, did you?
Well, I knew about scat. I did not know the name of Louis Armstrong's band.
Ah, well, you do now.
But
so, there you go.
I don't know why you seek to prove things that I don't know.
You learn something new every day.
I do learn something new every day. And however, most of it that I learn from you is wrong, so I tend not to take it on board. Yes. How about this from Paul? So I always remember Concorde flying over Catford on Sunday afternoons when I was a kid and loving the noise of the engines.
I loved it. I just absolutely loved it. I used to go out in my roof garden, right? And I used to watch it come in, and literally it whizzed over and very, very high, by the way, just like a white dart, and then it spun round, and then it whizzed back to get into...
Was this as it was coming in or going out?
Coming into Heathrow.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I used to see it from the golf club, because we were right next to Heathrow, and we used to see it coming in.
It's such a beautiful sight, isn't it?
And if you did it, if you did it at the right time of the year, which I guess would have been around about autumn time,
right,
it tended to come in just as the sun was setting.
Oh, I see. Yeah,
sort of 5
lovely.
p.m.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's always about 5 p.m.
Which was absolutely beautiful.
But I also, the pride that you had in your heart when you saw the Concorde parked up in JFK, because the one thing we had the Americans didn't have, and they loved it a bit. In fact, they were so envious of it, they tried to ban it, didn't they, for a number of years? Saying, it's going to pollute the atmosphere and all that kind of...
But I wondered whether they just didn't want to make one because they couldn't figure out a way to make enough money from it.
Yeah, well, I think you may be right. Now, there's an email here. It says, I love to hear Porky sing. We're celebrating 50 years of independence next week. Any chance of a quiz? Who's that then?
That's Marcus in Barbados. He's the guy that you told, you may not remember this, but many, many weeks ago, before that big hurricane in the United States hit, before it hit Barbados, and he was the guy that sent us a tweet and said, during an Ask Porky night, should I go to work or not? And you said, of course you should.
Yes.
Don't lie around at home, even though there's a hurricane. And, of course, there's a lot of flooding and trees down and all the rest of it. So that was one piece of information that wasn't particularly good.
Right, okay.
Now, William says, talking about Air Force One, the first Air Force One was christened on this day, November the 24th in 1954.
Was it, really?
William's always sending us this stuff about, anniversaries. Yesterday he sent us one about...
Hang on, 54, President of the United States, must have been Dwight Eisenhower, was it?
In 54?
Yeah.
I guess.
I think it was, because Kennedy got in 60 after defeating Richard Nixon. I think Dwight Eisenhower was 2 terms before that, so 52 would have got in,
I suppose so.
Yeah.
And he also adds, there's no end to the amazing talents of Porky. Music, yodeling, poetry, writing.
Exactly.
And the list of his multi-talents goes on. I think he's got his tongue firmly in his cheek there.
Yeah.
Now,
not internal monitors, by the way.
Yeah.
You've got the old famous picture of the turkey that escaped with his life at the White House.
No, they do that every year.
They do every year. Every year they bring a turkey to the White House and say, this is the one that didn't get gassed. Because everybody eats turkey on Thanksgiving.
Does it not always turn out to then get killed at a later date?
Yeah, usually, It gets run over in the streets.
Well, the real turkeys are coming to the White House in January, I suppose you might say.
Yeah, that's quite right,
But now we'll get slaughtered for being anti-Trump.
That's a bit harsh.
Now, what about this picture that I showed you earlier from Cambridgeshire, where the Mad Council people have painted or bricked on a roundabout on a very small road.
Very odd.
With the deliberate idea of actually making a motorist confused in order that they will slow down.
Yeah, but local authorities are mostly speaking pretty incompetent bunch, aren't they? Most things they get wrong.
They've obviously spent quite a lot of money on this, though.
Yeah, what's the whole purpose of this ridiculous
first of all,
first of all,
it's cost £500,000.
Yes.
Right? It's in Cambridge, where they're quite pro-cycling, because I'm told there's quite a lot of cyclists in Cambridge, right?
The whole world that wants to be, liberal elitist is pro-cycling.
Well, it is. But they spent £500,000 basically on this, and if you look at the picture, it's been drawn. It looks like a roundabout, but in fact, the road it just goes straight.
Yeah.
But the roundabout is a sort of optical illusion, because there's half of it is on the main part of the road.
Right.
The other half goes onto a pavement.
Yeah.
And then across another sort of
I think that could confuse drivers.
Well, I think if you drove anywhere near that, there's a picture there. Look, if you drove anywhere near that, right, it would confuse you and possibly cause an accident, wouldn't it?
Well, I totally agree.
Because you might think you have to go round it.
Designed by a 4-year-old with a packet of cranes. Motorists slam £500,000 roundabout.
Well, it wasn't actually designed by a 4-year-old.
No, meant to slow down drivers, so it increases the chance of... I totally agree. It increases the chance of an accident. I think it's utterly confusing. If I saw that, I wouldn't know what to do.
No.
I think it's absolutely ridiculous.
Well, let's hope it doesn't catch on.
Yeah, I really do.
How about this from Robin in Enfield? He said, Mike P., the group was called Steam. You were very close.
What did I say?
Steam train or something? Steamboat?
I said, na.
Yeah, steamboat or something.
No, steam train, I think it's called. What are they called?
They're called Steam.
They're called Steam, yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was close.
Somebody else who's obviously not old enough to remember says it was Bananarama, but it was obviously
I think Bananarama did a version of it.
They did
do a version of it. Yeah, Bananarama with those 3 ladies who sang, let me see... It ain't what you doing, it's the way that you do it. It ain't what you seen, it's the way... That's it, that was it. It ain't the way that you do it. And that's what it's all about.
That's what gets results.
You've done
a lot of singing this week, by the way.
Hey?
You've done a lot of singing this week.
Well, I like to...
I'm starting to suspect you sing when you've got nothing else to say.
No, that's not true at all.
Here's one from Richard who says, a smaller driver, Porky, in the car. That would be you, wouldn't it?
What?
A smaller driver. You said you've got one driver and you've got a smaller driver.
What do you know?
He's making a joke about your golf clubs.
Yeah, okay. It wasn't very funny the first time, thank you.
I thought it was quite funny.
Just push off, will you?
Porkyvision coming up in the next hour.
Yeah.
We're going to be talking about Freddie Mercury. Have you requested your favourite Freddie Mercury song?
No, but I mean, we have a top man behind the glass there, and I'm sure he will select one.
Yeah. Okay. Julian says, Porky last week said it was 100 seats. I'm pretty sure it was 99. They removed seat 13 from its maiden test and stayed at 99.
Where was this?
About Concorde.
Concorde?
Yeah.
No, I don't think that's true.
Did they remove seat 13?
No, I don't think they did.
You sure?
I'm pretty sure they didn't. I don't know. I didn't count the seats when I was on it.
Right.
When I was on board.
What seat were you in?
I was about...
Do you not have, your boarding pass from Concorde? Considering that you keep every other piece of tat you've ever had, including 60 different first-class, toilet wash bags.
That's true.
You didn't keep the one.
Well,
the one boarding pass that would have been the most interesting one to keep.
Good question. I may have it somewhere. But I was close enough to the front, so like 3 rows or something, to see the meter on the front bulwark, which told you how fast you were going. And when you passed Mach 1, that's the speed of sound, it changed colour.
Now you're in the cockpit then. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Yeah, I'll tell you something I didn't tell you about the other day.
Oh, yeah.
You know Matt, who sent us very kindly that bottle of Bollinger the other day.
Indeed. Thank you very much indeed, Matt.
From the Twitter account at Two Mics FC.
Which, of course, you drank.
Yes, I did.
And I didn't have a drop-off.
Well, you didn't have any of it, no. Well, you don't drink champagne. We'd be wasted on you. Bollinger is not to be given to people who don't drink champagne.
Why wasn't I given the option of a...
There's bubbles in Bucks Fizz as much as there's bubbles in champagne. In fact, the acidity of the orange is probably bad for you as well.
No, the orange negates the bubbles to a certain extent. Do you not remember we came back from a show somewhere up north and we went into that bar at King's Cross?
No.
So it must have been Newcastle.
That's true. No, that was on the way up somewhere. That was on... wasn't? Oh, no, you're right. It was on the way back.
And we decided to settle our stomachs with a few Bucks Fizzes, which cost about 78 quid for 4
something
or
like
something.
That, Shocking price.
And then we went on there.
Yeah, I've also seen you drinking Bucks Fizz in Edinburgh.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
so there you go. So I wasn't offered a Bucks Fizz.
Well, I mean, we opened more than one bottle of champagne, so I mean, you could have asked at any time if you wanted one.
Could I? Yeah.
Now, should I tell you how this starts? This dictionary, because it's very good. It's very well done. The one I've just told you about, the Two Mics dictionary.
Oh right, okay, yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, I wondered what you were rabbiting on about.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now the first entry is Ask Porky.
Right. A for ask, yeah.
Yeah, and the explanation is there's the Two Mics show segment where Porky answers questions to solve the world's ills and resolve the plight of dedicated Two Mics listeners.
That's right, yeah.
Next one is Four-Eyed Fat Face Fool.
Yes. That goes to F. Isn't there anything between A and F?
Well, he's used the number 4, so I don't know.
I see.
You're not going to start picking holes in it,
No, not at all.
Common derogatory insult directed at MG by Porky.
Yes, that's right.
Shut it, you four-eyed fat-faced fool, so I can make my point.
Yeah, that's good. I like that.
They've got bladderation.
Yeah.
Balloon,
yeah.
Bloxios.
Balloon face, yeah.
Businessman.
Yeah, I like that.
Insert space, bin, tax, etc.
Very good indeed.
Porky's arch enemy. Chester. Cinnamon Challenge, Complete Dope.
Yes.
Costello's.
Yes.
Cycle Lanes.
Yes.
Derrick in Pencaid.
Good.
Edinburgh Fringe, Egyptian Doctor.
Yeah.
Everton Fastback.
Well, there you go.
Faux Leather Bag.
There you go.
Fleet Street, Full Sex. It goes on. Very
Excuse me.
clever. And people have been adding to it over the course of the last few days.
Now, do you know what? It's funny you should mention...
What I think I'm going to do is retweet this particular link because it's great stuff.
That's great stuff. I think we'll have that on our new website. We don't have the copyright on it, though, do we?
Well, you don't need to own a copyright on it.
I suppose there are words, but somebody else has compiled them. We'll put that on the new website when we launch it.
Why would you mention copyright at this point?
Well, because,
I mean, you've never worried about copyright in your life. You've stolen, liberally, block and tackle lifted huge chunks of text from other people's writings and pretended they were yours.
I'm worried that people are stealing my copyright these days. Like, for instance, the Cinnamon Challenge, which has been downloaded now 25 million times.
That's right. And you've received exactly how much?
0. I've made
but that's
absolutely
because
not
of your
a penny
incredibly useless business acumen, though.
I didn't realise it was going to be so popular.
Yeah.
Now, listen, you just mentioned Chester there in the Two Mics dictionary, okay?
That's right, yeah.
I've because I like to I have an ongoing study of my hometown and my roots and all that kind of stuff. Did you know that everybody thinks that the first police force in this country was founded by? Go on, tell me.
What, Robert Peel?
Sir Robert Peel, who was the Prime Minister.
Yeah.
And that's why coppers...
They're called peelers.
They're peelers, that's right, yeah. Or bobbies,
well,
Sir Robert Peel.
That. Everybody knows
yeah,
Robert
but it's
Peel
not true.
It.
It's not true.
What do you mean it's not true?
Guess where the first constabulary was formed in this country?
I would say the first constabulary was formed in this country in St Albans.
No, I told you I studied the antecedents of my hometown, Chester. It was founded in Chester.
You didn't say it was Chester.
The Cheshire Constabulary. The Cheshire Constabulary was the first constabulary to be formed in this country.
How exciting!
And did you know why?
Is that because there's so much crime up there?
No. Well, sort of. But what it was that Cheshire was like halfway between sort of Wales and the north of England, if you see what I mean.
And it still is, really, isn't it?
It is, yeah.
It hasn't really moved.
No, it hasn't really moved, yeah.
Now, so technically speaking.
Now, maybe this explains some of the way I feel about life. You're going to say now, oh, well, that's obviously why you came from there. But what Cheshire Cheshire was a wealthy county because it was a farming county, OK? And this was in 1829.
Right.
And what happened was, like, all these down-and-out, bedraggled beggars would stagger around out of North Wales, hoping to find riches and wealth, somewhere else. And so what Cheshire did was they formed a mounted division of a police constabulary, basically to ride down the beggars or to shuffle them off Cheshire soil into other places like Staffordshire.
But so who had the idea to start a police force, though?
The county and borough authorities.
OK.
Who founded the County and Borough Police Act of 1829. They formed a new force which has continued to this day. And one of the reasons for it, it was, and then it was renewed in 52 and 56. But it was basically to make sure that Cheshire had plenty of mounted police patrols to keep itinerant workers moving through to the next county, thus reducing the responsibility of having to pay poor money to these starving beggars.
And what year was this?
1829.
OK. I'm surprised there weren't police officers around before that.
No, there weren't, no.
Because surely there would have been during, say, for example, Norman times.
Yes.
You would have needed some form of non-military sort of unit to take care of the people who might have been revolting against the new rulers.
No, not at all. No, they just crushed them, didn't they, underfoot? I mean, you've got to remember that that's where the expression hue and cry comes from.
Oh, yeah.
Until 1829, you had a responsibility to raise the hue and cry if you saw a crime being committed. And then everyone could chase after the thief and literally bundle him to the ground and then jump up and down until he was dead.
Right.
That's the way they used to mete out justice in those days.
It's funny how things have gone full circle, really, haven't they?
Well, a little bit, yeah. Say. But, I mean, the other thing I was going to tell you is that some of the first police forces were Edinburgh, right? Edinburgh City Police.
Yeah.
The Thames River Police.
Thames River Police,
yes.
Very,
very early...
who I see on a regular basis now because I'm on the river.
Exactly. You see them driving around.
They have ridiculously sort of old-fashioned looking boats.
I know, and they're very flamboyant, aren't they, in terms of the livery?
Well, I mean, the boats that you see that look like they mean business are the special boat service guys that you see sometimes going up and down on those dirigibles, and they're all wearing the kind
of... black ones?
Yeah, the black sort of big rubber dinghies, but they go really fast.
That's right.
But the ones that the normal police are in look as if they wouldn't be able to catch anyone.
No, that's right.
Just about go about the same speed as a barge.
Yeah, no, the same speed as a pleasure sort of craft, really, But isn't that interesting? Anyway, once Cheshire got going, so then did the Metropolitan Police in 1829.
Right.
And that was, in fact, Robert Peel's Metropolitan Police, which was, one of the outstanding police forces in the world. So what you're saying is that
Robert Peel has been wrongly attributed with creating the police force?
Very much so. It was the man...
Maybe that's just another case of London centrism.
Oh, it is, yeah. It was the man who was head of the Cheshire County Council, believe it or not. Well, it was called in those days the County and Borough of Cheshire, who introduced the Police Act. Well, I thought that was very interesting, that.
Well, it's vaguely interesting.
Yes.
But, not very interesting.
Oh, I think it's very interesting.
I'll tell you something that's very interesting.
Yeah.
You with your fascination with pens, right?
Oh, yes.
What I've done is I've managed to find you another great gift, only this time you can buy it for yourself, right?
Yes.
Mont Blanc. I'm sure you own one of their pens, do you?
Well, I did, but somebody stole it at a book signing.
Somebody stole your pen?
Literally, £150 Mont Blanc, which had a little sort of
glass
bubble on the top.
It serves you right for being so sort of, flamboyant.
Well, I'm signing.
Well, why don't you just sign with an ordinary biro?
Well, because I like the feel of a Mont Blanc, and I put it down on the desk, and I turned round, I was talking to somebody, a shop assistant, I looked back, it literally just gone.
Wow.
Yeah.
Shocking.
Stolen.
Well, don't worry, you've got one of my kids' cross pens to make up for it.
Oh, well, that's very good, thank you. Couldn't do without it.
Apparently, they've now invented Mont Blanc, right?
Yes.
A special type of writing paper where you write on the paper, and it immediately transfers via an app to a computer, so that you can actually handwrite something on a piece of paper, and it will turn up on your laptop or on your iPad or even on your phone if you wish it to. Isn't that great?
That sounds very complicated to me.
Well, it's not complicated. You write with a particular type of pen, which is called a Star Walker ballpoint.
Right. Yeah.
And the paper that you buy is used is sold only by them.
Yes.
£530 for the lot.
Yeah, well, that doesn't sound that expensive, does it?
Well, it's not something I would buy you for Christmas. Let's put it that way.
Yes. Well, that sort of cost, I don't suppose I would expect it from you, really, but... I see. I've got the dictionary here. Somebody just sent it me. Here's the Two Mikes
Nobody
dictionary.
sent it to you. It's just been tweeted out on the Two Mikes Twitter account.
And it says it's thanks to the Two Mikes FC. Is that right?
That's right.
Oh.
The guy called Matt.
Oh, Matt.
I just told you all that.
Well done, my friend. Thank you very much indeed.
Now, here's one from PB who says Concorde's Mach 1 actual speed was 760.98 miles per hour.
Yeah.
And he says Concorde has been used for day trips to Cairo in Egypt.
Yeah, I remember that. Well,
maybe it's still being done.
Get on of course it's not, because it doesn't fly anymore, but the day trip to the pyramids was a famous...
pyramids?
The pyramids, yeah.
I thought you said the pyramids. There,
no, the pyramids. Right. They're in Egypt.
They certainly are.
Yeah, very interesting.
This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mikes. Simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Where is my mind? Where is my mind? Where is my mind?
Matt says crime used to be very high in Chester, but then Porky moved to Stockbroker Belt, Surrey. That's very true, actually. And then here's one from BJ Collier, who says, actually, Cheshire was not the first force, it was Wiltshire, hence why they refer to themselves as first and best. Hashtag plank.
Well, yeah, but I mean, every force will say they're the first and the best and all that kind of stuff.
Well, no, Wiltshire actually say they are the first and the best. That's what they're called.
Yeah, but that's what they claim. But I mean, I've got the historical records. Cheshire was the first, certainly the first to have a mounted division as well. So they,
maybe they were the first mounted division.
No, they were the first altogether to look after the itinerants who were staggering in from North Wales. They've always had a bit of a problem, people from North Wales, in terms of
you have many times admitted,
social wealth.
You have many times admitted that your name is actually stemming from an original Welsh name. So
well, it is. Parry is a Welsh name, yeah.
You should be very careful.
But, places like Rhyl, they do suffer hard times sometimes, particularly in the winter when there's no, holiday makers.
Now, here's a story that will turn you insane, right? Because this was tweeted to me earlier in the day.
Right.
It's a story from France. A Frenchman inherited a large house from a relative, right? Just what he's found in the underneath the floors.
Underneath the floorboards?
Yeah, he's found £220 worth, that's a pound's weight, of gold.
Good God.
Which is worth $3.7 million. Do you
think it was left there by the Nazis?
He doesn't say.
Whereabouts is this?
It's in France. It's in a place called Évreux in Normandy.
Normandy,
right?
yeah.
He visited the house, he said, to value the furniture because he wanted to find out what was going on.
Yes.
He found 5,000 gold pieces, 2 gold bars of 12 kilograms apiece, and 37 ingots of 1 kilogram.
What an amazing thing to find, if you see what I mean.
Yeah.
Is there any explanation as to how it got there?
Well, he says first he found a tin box of coins screwed to the underside of some furniture.
Right.
So it's obviously hidden there for some particular reason,
well, it could be the Nazis, couldn't it?
He then came across more carefully concealed stuff in a box meant for a bottle of whiskey.
Right.
Finally, the man unearthed a staggering pile of gold, which appeared to have been sort of hidden basically under couches and all that kind of thing.
Yeah, golly.
Amazing.
And that was in Normandy?
Yes.
Well, it could very well have been the Germans, fleeing after D-Day or something like that.
No, but you say that we pay too much tax in this country, right?
Yeah.
Guess what he's going to get hit with, this guy? He's going to be hit with 45% inheritance tax.
Yes.
Because he was left it by a relative.
Yes.
And if the original owner did not declare the assets, which is likely to be the case, a further 3 years of back taxes on the amount.
Right. But how much is the find worth altogether?
$3.7 million.
Well, I mean, in that case, if he pays half of that, he's still in clover, isn't he? Eh?
Well, yeah, but...
Still in clover.
But it's just an extraordinary thing to find.
It certainly is.
Wouldn't you say?
I certainly would, yeah. Now, listen, I said to you last time we were discussing things that I hadn't seen the John Lewis advert for the animals bouncing up and down on the trampoline.
The dog, yeah.
Yeah, now I have now.
Have you?
And I think it's quite funny, really. It's quite good. I can't see the relevance of it for Christmas, but I mean...
Do you know what? I haven't seen it yet either. Deliberately.
Okay, yeah. Well,
deliberately.
Okay, well, listen, let me just say this. What it's done is it's prompted a debate within the medical world about whether or not you should promote the use of trampolines because children love them.
Yeah.
But they're very dangerous.
Well, up to a point.
Have you had a trampoline for your two kids?
After the conversation that we had about this beans advert being banned because children might hurt themselves on the old tins, right? Are you seriously telling me that you're going to say trampolines should not now be given to children?
Well, a lot of people would say that is the case. Now, I noticed the one in the John Lewis advert has got a mesh net around it, so that's probably to stop child falling overboard.
Well, I mean, if you are going to... There's two kinds of trampoline spaces to buy, right? When your kids are very young, you get a very low-slung trampoline, which is no more than, say, a foot off the ground.
Yes.
And not very big. And that's fine for the kids to just jump up and down on. If you want to get a trampoline that's a bit bigger than that, then, of course, it's better to get one with the mesh netting around it so they don't jump, off the side of it.
Exactly. But I've got a report here from... a Mr. Qureshi.
Mr. Qureshi?
Yeah, who is...
well-known trampoline expert.
No, he is in fact an orthopaedic surgeon.
Is he?
And he is... he's from the Association of Paediatric Chartered Physiotherapists.
Is
right?
he?
Oh, no, he's not. No, that's another guy. No, this guy is a...
Why would you say he was from that?
Well, he's not.
Randomly?
No, he's not. No, he's a bone surgeon. And the reason he's not called doctor is because he's such a... qualified one. His name is Amir Ali Qureshi.
Well, is it not the case that very, very distinguished surgeons are referred to as Mr.?
That's right. They go back to Mr. from Doctor.
Yeah.
And he is a consultant orthopaedic surgeon at the University Hospital of Southampton, right?
Right.
And that's where I should be going this Sunday to watch Everton play Southampton. But it's a late kickoff. It's 4:15.
Right.
And because of my secret mission, which may...
Well, you have to do it on Sunday as well, do you?
No, but it may resume Monday morning back in...
For heaven's sake.
Well, I can't say back where, but it's a long way from Southampton.
Is it?
And I don't believe that I would be fulfilling my duties to the country on Monday if I went into a bladderation day in Southampton.
Well, why don't you just go and not get into a bladderation day?
Well, it's difficult because I'm entertaining people, you see.
Really?
And,
well, how about the people that you're disappointed by not going?
Well, I'm going to have to...
What are they going to do? Do you want me to fill in for you?
No.
You sure?
Oh, definitely not.
Well, I'm quite happy to do that.
Anyway,
I'm offering to help you out.
No, it's very kind.
Why are you so reluctant to let me into your little world of celebrity entertaining?
Because you don't belong in that world.
Is that right?
Yes, that's right, right.
Is this another one of your secret projects that you're not telling me about?
No, not at all.
Right.
Now, listen, Mr. Amir Ali Qureshi, consultant orthopaedic surgeon, he says... no, I've already told you, the University Hospital, Southampton.
Yeah, all right.
He says forearm fractures, elbow fractures and head injuries are most common amongst children who have accidents on trampolines, okay?
Yes.
He says younger children are particularly at risk. And another chap who is from the Association of Paediatric Chartered Physiotherapists, who is a guy called Chris Smith, says twice as many children aged up to 4 end up in A&E as 5 to 9-year-olds. So it's the very young children, okay?
Yeah.
Did you know a typical 2-year-old child, you probably will know this, can fall over up to 100 times a day?
Probably, yes.
Younger children are less aware of danger and have less developed motor skills than older children. Some types of play equipment are more risky than others for accident-prone younger children.
Well, yeah, but everything's risky. The point is you cannot go through life saying, I must protect my child from everything.
Yes.
Because otherwise, they won't be allowed to ever do anything.
Okay. But broken bones and arms in children can be incredibly dangerous because
they can.
You can do things like fracture nerve endings, you can fracture blood vessels.
You can fall out of a tree and break your arm.
You can.
You can fall off a bike and break your ankle.
But
you can fall off a skateboard and smack your head into something. I mean,
sure.
Life is dangerous.
But what I'm going to warn you about, right, so that you're aware of this, is that the biggest danger is having little children, which yours aren't anymore, right?
Not so little, no.
But, they might have a neighbour or something like that, and putting them on a trampoline with bigger children.
Yes.
Because the force that the bigger children create on the trampoline can propel the smaller kids off the trampoline, and that's what causes accidents. You shouldn't have them all on the same trampoline.
Common sense, isn't it?
Well, people don't follow common sense a lot of the time, you know what I mean?
Well, you see, on the one hand, you want there to be less government interference in your life, right? But on the other hand, you're full of all these warnings and dire consequences, being the possibility of kids just enjoying themselves. Kids need to be able to enjoy themselves without being frightened of doing everything because everyone says there's a risk they might get hurt.
Yes.
I think that's the wrong attitude.
Yes. Okay, could be. You should surround your trampoline, by the way, with thick floor cushioning. You know what I mean? So that if your children do come off, they don't do themselves any harm.
No, that's just not practical.
Why?
Because, certainly in the case of my trampoline, it's in a garden.
Oh, I didn't know you had a trampoline.
Well, you were there. Why didn't you see it?
No, I didn't see it, no.
Why not?
It was dark.
Well, it wasn't dark when you left.
It was.
No, it wasn't.
It was quite dark.
You left in the dark.
I did. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah. You're supposed to be an observant character.
Yeah. Well, I'm a trained observer. Don't worry about that. But anyway, look, I thought I would just warn everybody that if you liked that advert and thought it was funny, and since then, by the way, sales of trampolines have soared. I don't think that was an intention of that advert, but they have, because the dogs looked as though they're having so much fun on them. And I'm doing is, as usual, being the consumer's friend.
Indeed.
I'm not trying to stop people from buying trampolines, just warning of the necessity to be on your alert if you've got one in your garden and your kids are bouncing up and down on it.
Well, talk to your
kids.
And
I think that's a valuable service we provide here at Talk Sport.
Well, you should talk to your kids and tell them how to do it properly so they don't get injured. Ed, unfortunately, did not do that. He says, my daughter had a double break, a double fracture and a dislocation of her left arm on a trampoline.
That is terrible. You see what I mean?
Yeah, but,
God, blimey. You see how sometimes I raise a point and within seconds it's backed up by the sheer practicality and accuracy of what I've explained.
How happy you are.
Yeah, I am.
How happy you
well,
are.
I'm not happy to have a little girl with a broken arm.
You shouldn't be happy about it.
Certainly not.
But the bottom line is that you have to teach your kids how to behave on equipment like trampolines.
Yes.
If you don't know how to do that, then I suggest you learn very quickly.
Yes.
This is Talk Sport.
Hey! One man, one goal.
TV reviewer, I can reveal there are no plans for a new series.
Yeah, no, but wasn't there a previous series?
Oh, hang on, wait a minute. It says here there might be a new series. What's the problem?
Now, John's done that very cleverly, don't you think?
Very cleverly. I like it.
This is, of course, Porkyvision, not to be confused with Porkyvision, which uses just one piece of music. This is Porkyvision specifically about the documentary on Freddie Mercury, which I believe aired on Channel 5.
It was aired on Channel 5, and the reason is it is 25 years this week since Freddie Mercury died. Now, it's very, very poignant because, believe it or not, 2 days ago his mother died.
Is that right?
Yeah,
I think I remember reading that.
Yes, that's right. And his mother, who was never a public figure, loved her son, revered his success, had a room at home which was like a sort of shrine to Freddie Mercury after he died and all that kind of stuff. And just to tie one thing to another in the show tonight, Freddie was born and brought up in Zanzi-bar.
Yes,
that's why he had that sort of very exotic Asian look about himself. You know what I mean?
Right.
And it was 25 years ago exactly when he died. Now, there's so many strands here which connect you and I to this story, Mike. One of them, for instance, is that one of the people who knew him almost better than anybody else was David Wigg.
Yes.
And David Wigg was an old Fleet Street colleague of yours and I. He had a showbiz at the Express when I was there.
Yeah.
And in fact...
Still around, actually. In fact, I saw him when I went to... a do. Remember when I went over to a do for over at the Mail a few weeks back?
Yes, that's right. Yeah,
he was there.
Yeah, okay.
He's still working.
Yeah, he's still working. I know because he was actually in this documentary, the Freddie Mercury one. And I'm looking as I speak at a Daily Mirror spread on Freddie Mercury, which is celebrating his. The
anniversary,
commemorating, not celebrating, commemorating the 20th anniversary of his death, and a picture of his mum who died a couple of days ago, who was called Jer, J-E-R, and it's just amazing the impact the man had on everybody's lives. Now, the actual programme that we're reviewing here was called The Freddie Mercury Story.
Okay,
and I thought that it was a very cheap, hastily put together, rubbishy, lacking in quality, docudrama. Right?
Was it a docudrama?
It was a docudrama because they had footage of actual, Queen stuff. Had footage of
Live Aid,
and all that, and other, but not a lot.
But if it was a docudrama, that means there was somebody playing him.
Yeah, there was.
Oh,
there was a guy playing him.
So who was the guy playing him?
Well, I don't know. I've no idea. And he had a big moustache and all that. But worse than that, whilst the guy who was playing Freddie Mercury looked, a little bit like him, the guy playing Brian May, who was a central figure to the whole Queen story and was probably Freddie Mercury's closest, friend and ally and everything else as they wrote, brilliant songs together, was played by a guy who looked nothing like Brian May. He looked more like Wurzel Gummidge, to be honest, But
was he supposed to be Brian May as he looks now? Because he has got a lot of very big...
No, he's supposed to be Brian May as he looked 25 years ago.
Right.
Yeah.
Because he's got that big mop of grey
hair. Yes,
he has,
yeah. No, he's supposed to look like Brian May in those days. But the reason that I thought it was rubbish was because it was so predictable, the bits where the docudrama, Freddie, with his boyfriends and all that. And to be honest, it became like a sort of a social documentary of the times rather than Freddie Mercury. So the main point that they were trying to make was that Freddie Mercury died because he indulged in a life of excess at a time when actually nobody had even heard of AIDS. And so by the time...
by the time he died of AIDS, I think several sort of high-profile people had died of it.
They certainly had. Rock Hudson was the first. And so within this docudrama, they show a picture of Freddie sitting at home watching the TV news on his, he'd met Rock Hudson. Rock Hudson had died of this mystery disease. And then, the first alarm bell started going off in people's heads. But the problem was the indulgence which led to him catching AIDS was happening at a time when nobody even knew that AIDS existed.
Yeah.
So if I said to you...
Well, that was why it was such a deadly disease.
Well, of course it was.
The number of people who caught it, by the time they caught it, they didn't realise it was there to be caught.
By the time they caught it, they there was no hope for them, but they didn't know what they'd caught or how they'd caught it or anything like that. But it was... the reason I thought it was trashy was because all the bits in between the real stuff... And by the way, there was very little real stuff, which I know what that means. That means that it's very expensive to buy, real footage of Queen on the stage and all that kind of... It's very expensive because I remember...
It's owned by the Queen organisation.
Well, I remember once putting together a TV documentary and we needed some footage of Jeff Hurst's...
A TV documentary?
Yeah, TV documentary.
Was it cheap and trashy like this one?
No, it was very good and quality stuff, And
I bet.
Yeah, and we needed footage of Jeff Hurst's hat-trick in the World Cup final.
Yes.
And in the end we couldn't put it in because the cost of it was enormously prohibitive.
Yeah.
It's about $75,000, you know what I mean, and all that kind of stuff.
If it was a classy documentary, you should have paid up.
Well, it was a classy documentary, but it didn't require that sort of expenditure.
Right.
So I think they sort of skimped on the amount of real footage. Because
so I'm slightly puzzled as to how this thing works. So it's a story about Freddie Mercury's life.
Yes.
With footage of the real Freddie Mercury.
Yes.
But with another guy who's playing him.
Yes.
Right.
So, for instance...
And is it a series?
No, it's a one-off programme called The Freddie Mercury Story.
Uh-huh.
So, for instance, the actors would be lolling around in a dressing room saying, God, that was a great show tonight.
So
went
when
down
does
really
it
well.
start? Is it chronological or not?
Yeah, it's kind of chronological, and it starts in... Well, it actually starts at Band Aid. Is it called Band Aid?
Well, Band Aid, where they recorded the song.
No, the one at Wembley. Live Aid.
Yeah.
It started at Live Aid because it said Live Aid was where Queen revived themselves after 10 years of terrific success.
Yeah.
Or more, 15 years of... how much? Yeah, it was 10 or 12 years of terrific success. They'd sort of fallen into a bit of a lull. So they show Freddie backstage very nervous, and the actors playing him, is sort of... putting his makeup on and all that, I'm not nervous, darling, called everybody darling, I'm not nervous, darling, don't worry, I'll get out there. And then, so you see the actor walking through the door onto the stage, but then next you see real footage of the actual show itself, but not much of it, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then...
because you couldn't really recreate that, could you?
No, you couldn't recreate it. And then you'd flick back to the dressing room and he'd come walking in off the stage, allegedly, the actor, and it was
Has anybody
very
famous directed it that you would know? Or...
No, nobody famous directed it. So it was all a bit trashy. And the other guy in it was the Canadian... Was it Kid Jensen? No, it wasn't Kid Jensen. Who was it?
I don't know, Paul Gambaccini?
Gambaccini was the guy. You're absolutely right.
Played by him or by somebody like him?
No, Gambaccini. What happened was, you see, this is where I thought it was a bit of a mess. There were actors playing Freddie Mercury and Brian May and the other guys in the group. Was it John Deacon and the drummer?
Yeah.
The blonde-haired drummer.
Right.
And the actor playing the blonde-haired drummer looked like the blonde-haired drummer, his name.
Well, I'm told the actor who plays Freddie Mercury is in a band which is a Queen tribute band.
Well, that wouldn't surprise me.
Called Killer Queen.
Yeah, well, that wouldn't surprise me. So you've got this sort of fictional type thing, where they're acting and, they're trying to be the Queen. Then you've got, that interspersed with footage. But then, every now and then, Paul Gambaccini or our friend we've just spoken about, David Wigg, would suddenly just come face onto camera and tell, Freddie's lifestyle was extraordinary. He was insatiable, when he wanted to do something, he just did it for days and days on end and all this kind of stuff, And then even the boyfriend he had when he died, a guy called Jim somebody, an Irish fella, would actually talk and all that kind of stuff. So it's all a bit of a potpourri. Didn't learn anything new in it because everybody knew the story.
Well, you have to remember that not everybody knows Freddie Mercury and Queen and the story perhaps as well as you do.
I think they do. I think
younger people might not.
I think it's a very well documented story. Now, on the night that Freddie Mercury died, I was still in the building at the Daily Express.
Right.
And I'd sent, that very big but very affable chap who used to work late. Was it Jack? Used to work late shifts all the time on the news
Jack
desk.
Lee.
Was it Jack Lee?
Yeah.
Was it?
Yeah, I think it was Jack Lee.
And he was a very, sort of smiling guy.
He was a very nice guy, yeah.
And he had an apartment out in Mallorca, do you remember?
That I don't know.
No, he did, yeah. And I'd sent...
You're not thinking about Terry Chinnery?
No, not Terry.
News desk.
yeah.
News desk.
San Francisco.
No,
bridges collapsed. That's what he said.
No, Terry was a great guy, though.
Yeah, he was a good guy. Yeah. News desk.
Jack Lee, on the other hand, died. In fact, I went to his funeral.
Well, that's what I was going to say to you. Poor old Jack died, didn't he? Yeah, what did he die of? Like,
I can't remember.
Sort of cancer or something.
But he famously left his wife for one of the telephonist girls at the Express.
Did he?
Yeah.
I didn't know that, because he wasn't a very attractive bloke. He was a big bear of a man, and a bit sort of ungainly.
Well, I mean, I wouldn't say that.
But he was a very nice chap, and a terrific reporter, by the way. He never let you down on a story, but he was good. So anyway...
Although, was he not the one who was sent to try and get some information out of some school or other? There was a story about a private school where there'd been some drug scandal, right?
Oh, yeah.
And he wasn't always the best at using his own initiative.
No, he wasn't diplomatic.
And he was sent out to try and find out precisely what had been going on at this very highly expensive school.
Yes.
I'm not going to name the school.
Right.
You'll figure it out once I tell you the story. Unfortunately, he was reported by the school to the police.
For loitering at the gates?
Well, it was worse than that. He was loitering in the bushes.
Oh, I see.
And whispering to kids as they were coming out of the school. And offering them cash.
Oh, I see, yeah.
So they thought that he might be up to no good.
Not a good way to go about it.
It was later compounded by the fact that it transpired that not only was he then arrested for procuring children, it turned out the editor's son was in attendance at that same school.
Oh, that's right, yeah. I know the school now. Yes.
So that was why he was on permanent nights.
That was on permanent nights,
because he was never allowed to go out again during the day.
Poor old Jack. It was the other guy who used to sleep under the desk and drive around in a van because he was such a miserable individual.
Oh, I don't know.
You know the guy I'm talking about?
No.
He used to wear cardigans, so he was a right loser. But
anyway, is there anything else for Porkyvision this week, or is that all you watched?
No, hang on. I was going to say to you...
Yet.
Hang on. No, I'm finished. And I got a phone call from somebody who said, it's finished for Freddie Mercury, it's all over. I said, really? He said, yeah, honestly.
Maybe it's David Wigg.
Well, it could have been David Wigg, actually. He said, I know he's going to see it through the night. I sent Jack out there, and just as Jack got there, the back door opened of the mansion in which Freddie Mercury lived, and the doctor walked out. But the doctor only got about 20 yards down the road when all of a sudden the door opened, and some other person, like a Freddie Mercury aide, got down and said, Doc, come back. Freddie's just fallen out of bed and broken his arm. And that was it. From that, he got an infection and he died that night.
Daniel's tweeted in to say the reason it started at Live Aid is because that's where he first started to feel unwell.
Well,
and then that's when it went back to the start afterwards.
Yeah, I didn't pick that up. What I did pick up is that he knew he was ill because the revival started at Live Aid, and then they did some touring and all that, and ended up at Nebworth. Now, Nebworth, they flew in by helicopter, if you believe what you saw in the pictures.
Well, everybody flew into Nebworth by helicopter because it's a terrible place to get to by car.
Exactly. And you know that Freddie Mercury's act all the time was one of terrific energy from start to finish.
Yeah.
And when it finished, that one bit of footage which really did graphically illustrate the decline of Freddie Mercury was the encore at Nebworth when actually he was gasping for breath and he couldn't move on stage. And that's when he came off stage and realised there was something wrong with him.
Yeah.
And then he went to doctors, and doctors were saying, well, there's this strange sort of virus that we found in men in America and all that kind of stuff. And then it became, clear what had happened, and that was the end.
Sure.
And it's very, very sad, considering he was one of the musical genii of the second half of the 20th century.
Indeed.
Terribly sad.
Have you seen anything else this week?
Well, I'm ploughing through all the Coronation Street episodes because there's so much Rogerisation in Coronation Street now. Maria is... had horizontal relations with people she shouldn't have done.
Horizontal relations?
Yeah, that's right.
One.
Yeah.
For the dictionary.
So is Steve. So is Leanne.
Steve?
Yeah. So is...
Tim?
And by the way, I have to say, and this is very unkind, isn't it, but Liz, who used to be right at the top of the FMP list, the first Mrs. Parry, in the days when there was a list, there's not a list anymore.
No, because you've closed the list off now.
Yeah, she has become... grandmotherly, I would say.
Right.
But she is a grandmother, so...
Well, she might say the same about you.
Yeah, she might say the same about me. but still a hugely attractive woman. That's what I would say.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, that was Porkyvision.
Yeah, that was Porkyvision.
Same thing next week.
Yeah, definitely. It won't be the same programme, though, obviously.
Well,
a
obviously
different
not,
programme.
unless you forget that you did it already.
No, I won't forget anything. Don't worry.
Good.
Don't worry. But it was trash.
Okay.
Freddie Mercury story.
Don't bother watching
Channel
it again.
5 trash.
On Channel 5
Yeah.
iPlayer, whatever it's called. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing. It don't mean a thing. All you got to do is sing. Makes no difference if you're sweet or hot. Give that rhythm everything you got. It don't mean a thing if you ain't got that swing.
What do you make of that?
Is that Ella Fitzgerald?
It might be. I think it's Cleo Lane, actually. It sounds like
It's Cleo Lane, is it? Yeah.
That's what I was telling you about.
Yeah, and that is the...
That's the homegrown scat for you.
Yeah, that's right. That's the actual...
And Johnny Dankworth.
Johnny Dankworth, that's right, yeah. So that's you call it scat, I call it the non-lexical vocable.
That's why they didn't let you write headlines, because try and put that in a headline.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't, would I?
Scat
I'm just being absolutely accurate in what I say.
Well, why would you be absolutely accurate in what you say for the first time in your life at 3:46 in the morning on September the 24th? Why would you? What would be the point?
What you want, but don't
now,
play
as I said to you
games.
before, people are complaining about the amount of singing you've been doing this week. So let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
How much Red Bull do you now drink?
I don't.
You don't drink Red Bull at all?
No.
Because you want to know what happens to your body when you drink Red Bull. I could give you a minute-by-minute description.
I saw somebody trying to explain that somewhere, so you obviously picked it up. Go on, tell me what happened.
It was tweeted to me yesterday
by
a listener. So here's what happens. In the first 10 minutes after finishing a can, the caffeine begins to permeate your bloodstream. In turn, your heart rate and blood pressure start to pick up pace.
Yes.
15 to 45 minutes later, if you drink it fast, you'll start feeling more alert and concentrated around 15 minutes later. Slow drinkers may not feel the effects for about 40 minutes, right? Now, do you drink it fast or not?
I like to, I like to throw it down. I like to throw it down,
right.
yes, definitely.
So 30 to 50 minutes later, caffeine absorption is complete.
Yes.
Your pupils dilate, your blood pressure rises as a response, your liver dumps more sugar into your bloodstream, the adenosine receptors in your brain are now blocked, preventing drowsiness. Your blood sugar spikes, causing an insulin burst.
Wow.
Your liver responds to this by turning any sugar it can get its hands on into fat, of which there is plenty. 1 hour later, your body starts to experience a sugar crash, as well as the effects of the caffeine dying down. You'll start to feel tired, and energy levels will start to feel low.
So it gives you a boost first, that makes you feel tired?
Exactly.
It doesn't do that to me.
Well, hang on. 5 to 6 hours later, it takes this long for the amount of caffeine to halve in your body. For women to take the pill, it'll take 10 hours. 12 hours later, the time that it takes most people to fully remove caffeine from their bloodstream. Right? Withdrawal symptoms kick in 12 to 24 hours later. About a day after you had your caffeine hit, you're in the mood for another. If you become used to a daily or more regular fix, you will start to feel lethargic, distressed, experience headaches and constipation.
Well, I have to say, in all honesty, I have never suffered any of those symptoms from drinking Red Bull. I used to drink a couple a day because I used to perk me up and that kind of stuff. And then I thought, no, this can make your liver blubbery. You know what I mean? I'd read some reports on it, so I cut it out. But I mean, all it used to make me feel was, alert. Really.
Yeah. Well, it says it can cause anxiety, dehydration, nausea, and a dangerously high heart rate.
No.
So you really shouldn't be drinking it.
Well, I shouldn't be doing a lot of things in my life, but I've bucked the trend and decided to take life on and grab it by the throat.
Well, it's all very well grabbing life by the throat.
And get on with it, you know what I mean?
If it grabs you back by the throat and makes you dead because of 1/3 of your heart is only the bit that works, then I think that I would regard that as reckless.
The most dangerous thing I could do would be to drink Red Bull and vodka. Because, as you quite rightly just described, the effects that Red Bull has on you, it speeds everything up. At the same time, the alcohol slows everything down. So it'd be a bit like driving a car with your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time.
Yes.
Very bad news.
That's very much how they describe taking illegal drugs as well.
Is that right?
Because that's really the worst thing you can do.
Right.
Is you put your foot on the accelerator and the brake at the same time.
That's right, yeah.
And it tries to shovel all sorts of things through the system.
Yeah, it's horrible, isn't it?
Very bad idea.
You won't believe what I found in a Name Your Child book. Okay?
Name your child.
Name your child book.
What were you looking to name your child book for?
I like looking at them because I want newer, better, old Victorian names to be introduced into the.
Are you any nearer becoming, say, a great uncle or anything like that? Any of your nieces or nephews anywhere near having kids?
No, there is no sign of that. So that
no sort of
be for another
on the
day.
horizon.
But since 1990, 328 people in the United States, and they're all girls, have been named A, B, C, D, E.
Right. Just those 5 letters?
Yeah.
Okay.
And it's pronounced Abcd. Abcd.
Is it?
Abcd.
Right.
Right? Well, don't you think that's very unusual?
It is unusual, but obviously not as unusual as you'd think, because if 117 people have been named that...
No, 328.
328.
Guess in which state 326 of them were?
326 in which state?
Yeah.
Illinois.
No, Hawaii.
Hawaii?
Yeah. So it's very much a Polynesian type thing, you know what I mean? But isn't that a very...
Haven't the Polynesians got a different alphabet?
No.
Are you sure?
Well, they can't, can they? Because
they might have.
If they name a child A, B, C, D, E, and so at the font, when you're christening them, you know...
Well, possibly not at the font if they're not Christian. Are they Christians?
Yeah, I think they are, yeah. So so the old vicar holding the baby there will be, you know, and now do we agree to name God's child in my hands, Abcd? And the mother says,
Abcd
yes,
actually sounds okay.
Yeah, but it's...
Abcd is not an unattractive name, is it?
No, it's not unattractive, but
it's better than Horatio.
Yeah, but phonetically, it's A small b, S-I-D-E-E, Abcd.
Abcd, I don't mind that, though.
Well, yeah, but that's the phonetic explanation.
Yeah, but...
the actual name on the birth certificate is capital A, capital B, capital C, capital D, capital E.
But,
how weird is that?
Well, it's no more weird than lots of other names, like Moon Unit Zapper and all that kind of thing.
Yes.
But I mean, Zoe Bowie. If you were introduced to somebody at a party and you said, hello, my dear, as you often do to women, and what's your name? And she said, my name is Abcd. You would think it was exotic.
I'd say that's a nice name.
Yeah, you would. That's what I'm saying.
But then when I wrote her number down next to her name, you know, her phone number next to her name.
In that little pad you've got.
Yeah, which you'd probably give to me.
Before.
Then I'd say, and how is it? Abcd? Oh, yes.
How do you spell that?
Yeah, how do you spell it?
Then
capital
you'd look
A,
like a plank, wouldn't
capital
you?
B, capital
go,
C,
how do you think you spell
capital D, capital E. I mean...
She would say, how do you think you spell it? A, B, C, D, E. I think it's not the worst name I've ever heard of.
Well, it's not the worst name, obviously, but I mean, and actually, it's not an unpleasant name, but it's just a weird phenomenon, you know. And I kick into weird phenomenons all the time.
Well, I'm not surprised.
I see them and I know what they are. You know what I mean? Yeah. I'm quite good at these sort of things.
I hear what you're saying.
Yes.
Mark says this: a safe drive home, Mr. Parry. How do you live on 3 separate hours of sleep in a day?
I don't know.
You should look after yourself at your age.
I've no idea.
Actually, that's very true.
Yeah.
You should be very careful about that.
Well, I should be.
Now, David says this: Live Aid was a very dull affair until U2 came on. They really got the crowd going and made it easy for Queen. Well, I wouldn't say they made it easy for Queen.
Even Elton John said that Queen stole the show.
They certainly did.
Yeah. Do you know what? It's the birthday of a chap today who I still feel for as probably the unluckiest man in my lifetime.
Who's that?
Pete Best, the original drummer for the Beatles. He was in the Beatles.
We've come all this way, all this week, and we've hardly mentioned the Beatles.
I know, but he was in the Beatles from 1960 to 1962.
Yeah.
And then he was replaced after a conversation between John Lennon and Brian Epstein as to whether or not they should take Ringo Starr from Rory, Storm and the Hurricanes, who was playing in a Butlins holiday camp in North Wales at the time, Pwllheli.
Right.
And he went
because
straight
they didn't know him at this point, right?
They didn't know him very well. I mean, he was on the Mersey Beat sort of musical
on the radar.
scene. Yeah, he's on Bob's radar. But he was suddenly got an invitation to come and join the Beatles, so he took it up. And the rest is history. But Pete Best is 75 today.
Is he?
And just imagine how he's... I mean, that's a real sliding doors moment, isn't it?
Really
you know
is.
What I mean?
It really is.
You know,
I mean, he has been quite bitter and twisted about it in the past, hasn't he?
The last time I read about what he was doing, because he promotes local bands and all that kind of stuff, he seemed to have come to terms with it and said, well, I just go... Because I think he ran a bakery or something, didn't he? Or
I think so, yeah.
Something like that, you know what I mean? But the difference in lifestyle, because, funnily enough, for some unknown reason, I seem to to be following Ringo Starr now and have done for the past 2 or 3 months.
What do you mean for some unknown reason?
Well, because I sometimes I follow people that I've never actively followed, but I just seem to pick up their messages.
Oh, okay.
And Ringo Starr is now on a world tour, and he's saying this was a great concert last night. And he gives it the 2 forward V signs, like peace and all that kind of stuff. Which
he always has done.
And he signs off every message, peace and love.
Yeah.
Ringo.
Peace, love, doesn't he?
Yeah,
peace and
peace, love. Yeah, peace.
Peace, love.
So you get messages from him as well?
Well, I don't get messages from him, no. Yeah. I occasionally see people retweeting his stuff.
Yeah,
I don't think I follow him on Twitter.
Yeah, that's right. Peace, love, Ringo. But I mean, the difference in lifestyle between what Pete Best has done for the last 50 years and what Ringo Starr's done for the last 50 years is just ridiculous.
It would be difficult to ignore, I have to say.
It would be.
Now, let me wish you, we'll give you a birthday wish for somebody.
Okay.
Because Steve sent this in yesterday, but we didn't get around to it. November 24th. Oh, it's Lorna's birthday, he says, MG. Do you think Porky might wish her a happy birthday?
Who is it?
Lorna.
Lorna, I want to wish you a very, very happy birthday, my dear. I hope you've had a brilliant day, and I hope that you have a brilliant year, and I hope that your life gets better and better. Keep tuning in.
Yes, indeed.
Yes.
Robbie says, enough is enough. Scrap Porkyvision. Coronation Street, how sad.
What?
And Liz is your age.
Get lost.
He says, Liz is the same age as you.
Liz is not the same age as me, and anyway, you can all get lost because Porkyvision is a vital component of the Two Mics show.
That's the first sign of madness. The first sign of a dictator. When you decide that the people have turned against you. And you will not go with their wishes and you just keep doing what you want. That's the first sign of it. And then finally, here's one from Jane. Could you just get one thing right before the end of the show? Was it the Union Jack flag or the Jolly Roger? Easy mistake to make.
Hey? It was the Union Jack, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, well, we corrected that about, 4 hours ago. Thank you very much indeed for not paying attention.
That's clever since we only got a 3-hour show. However, we will be back tomorrow with the Porky Quiz, which is, of course, on British champions of the motor racing world.
Yes.
And the independent quizmasters are doing that quiz even as we speak.
Yeah.
This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
So when you read, the great Latin scholars...
Like who?
They? No, you know what I'm talking about.
Like who?
Well, the guys who wrote in Latin in Roman times and all that. Yeah,
Yeah, like who?
Well, Plato and all them...
Plato's Greek.
He's Greek, that's right, yeah. But I mean, actually... ancient
Socrates?
Socrates.
He was Greek as well.
Oh, yeah. But ancient Greek and Latin are sister languages.
What about Homer?
Homer,
the Iliad.
Homer, the Iliad.
That was Greek.
And he'd literally go off to the men's bathroom, tell people that he had sort of a colic complaint, which I thought was a horse thing, but apparently he had it.
Colic?
Yeah, colic,
What do you mean a horse thing?
Well, horses get colic, don't they?
Well, babies get colic as well.
I didn't realise that. I thought it was just horses.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
Talk Sport.
Ian Brew, it's the Scottish hangover remedy and all that kind of stuff.
Yes.
Bibbidi, bibbidi, doo-wop, razzmatazz, Scooby-Dooby, shoobity, bee-bop, bop-bop, a